people. We are the Lunenburg Water Commission. This is our March 23rd meeting. And this is being recorded for rebroadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. Review the warrants.
Oh yeah, we didn't do
Why don't we, you know what we'll do is we can get into those minutes and whatnot. Why don't we get right into Mr. Martin, who's here to discuss PFAS and options to remove it. Can we, is that good to go right into that?
Sure.
And then we'll do this while we're,
we can do,
as we're
at 4
going.
o'clock, we can do the like regular meeting and go through those.
Yeah, we'll just push them off for now or go through them as we get an opportunity. All right.
Great. So my name is Blake Martin. I'm with Weston and Sampson Engineers, and Fran and I went out and looked at your well site that has low levels of PFAS in it, and he asked me to come maybe give a little primer on PFAS, maybe give you some examples of other systems that have been built within the state, and kind of an overview, and then you can, pepper me with questions on costs, feasibility, what's the best way to go about it, and funding. We talked a lot about funding, what Massachusetts is doing about it. So this is a PowerPoint. It's from a talk I gave on PFAS. It's not meant to bore you, but I can flip through this really quickly, and I think it might be fun, actually. So, the very first page there is that PFAS, this is what those little compounds look like, that little picture down there. And one of the important things to note is that, I do, yeah. Is that, this fluorine-carbon bond is the strongest in nature, and so it's hard to break down, therefore the forever chemicals, right? But it has an ionic tail, so it's got an ionic attraction. And so you can get it to adhere to carbon, but you can also get it to adhere to resin with an ionic attraction, and the resin therefore takes out more PFAS per pound. And so that bears weight in terms of what you would use for treatment. And so the next page is really, where is it? And I think it comes from firefighting academies. It's in what they call AFFF, firefighting foam, but it's also in lots of manufacturing processes. So it's in your Gore-Tex fabric products, anything that's flame or fire retardant. It's in a lot of waxes. You've seen the car washes that have it. So it's in dental floss. It's in guitar strings. It's the miracle chemical that helps everything slip. And one of the projects that we're working on was the former Pease Air Force Base. They had a big fire where they dumped 90,000 gallons on a plane in 1991. It's still in the ground there. We've been working on pumping it out and treating it. So the next page is actually some treatment technologies. And I think I've got this, I don't know if I'm in order with you, yeah. So the treatment technologies are GAC, granular activated carbon, as well as ion exchange resins. Okay, so those are media. They're granular media. You put them in pressure vessels, you pump water through it, right? And that filters the PFAS out of the water. Now you can imagine, because the PFAS has an ionic tail, other media that attracts ions, like iron and manganese, will take it out of the water. So your well has quite a bit of manganese, and that's going to be a problem. Classically now, people have been putting in green sand plants ahead of the PFAS. So you take the iron and manganese out. At Devon's, we're working on a little bit different technology. The other technology is membranes, and right now no one's perfected this, and here's why. You can have membranes small enough to take these chemicals out of the water, but membranes then have to have a reject, right? And the reject water has to go somewhere, and you're concentrating the PFAS, and you actually haven't taken it and destructed it, moved it anywhere. When we have the resins and carbon, when the resins and carbon are fully absorbed with the PFAS, you change the media out, you send it off and get it burnt, and it gets thermally destructed at 2,000 degrees. And that breaks the bond. Fluorine and carbon both are not hazardous. So it's a good way of breaking it down. One of the things that we've been doing at the state level is putting in demonstration studies. So the next page you see long-term demonstration projects. Large filters, the GAC filters take 10 minutes of contact time, so they're a good 10 feet in diameter or 12 feet in diameter, depending on your flow rate, and some 22 feet tall. The resin filter vessels are much smaller. And this is, you see a little schematic of the Harrison and Smith wells. We're pumping from 2 wells down at the bottom of the page, and there's a primary filter and a secondary filter. Almost always you have a lead and a lag. And those 2 filters are made so that when the first one is exhausted, you have time to change the media out and run it in reverse. And so that gives you the maximum amount of media life. So usually, almost always, you're in pairs. Now, what does it look like for PFAS, right? They're slippery compounds, and as you know, in Massachusetts, we've got 6 compounds that are now regulated. That's a total of 6 equals the 20 parts for the drinking water standard. When you look at the different results, this is what happens. The next page is really the graphs of this kind of work. And on the left at the top is carbon, right, relative to PFAS and PFOS and PFOA. So you see that each graph there, the red graphs, are the different ports that you saw in the previous picture in the carbon bed vessel as you're working your way down. So the red one is the first port, the green one is the second one, and the blue one is the third. So you see that the third one starts to show evidence of it. That top line is the actual water quality coming from the well, so it's pretty high, right? And you get breakthrough up top, and then it works its way down through the filter. To the right of that is the resin, and you see, same time frame, the resins last about 6 times longer. They're also 4 to 5 times as expensive. So there's a real trade-off there. Okay, the newer compound that the DEP added was this PFBA. So these compounds come in 8, 6, 5, 4, 3 chains, and that's the number of carbon-fluorine bonds. So the PFBA is a shorter chain compound. It starts to slip through a little bit faster. So you see even the IX resins don't keep it back for very long. You see that bottom graph on the right kind of breaks through. You get it coming back close to the inlet concentrations pretty quickly. Fortunately, PFBA is not nearly as toxic as the other compounds. So I did offer to Fran to come see a couple of these, and you're more than welcome to. Off Jackson Road there in Devens, we have 3 systems going. The first one is on the Shabokin well. That's about a 1,200 gallon a minute system. And you see on that next page, the bottom schematic. It's a building next to an existing pump station. There's 4 filters in it. We put up a pre-tensioned fabric building with insulation, and it's actually pretty tight. We run it on a 10 kW heater, and you flip the page, you actually see what these things look like. That's the 4 filter system at the Shabokin well before we put a building over top. So the piping comes up the middle. It splits into the 2 trains. There's primary and secondary filters, and there's a valve rack in between, so you can run it forward, reverse, any way you want.
How big is that? It doesn't look very big from the picture.
Yeah, sorry for the scale. It looks tiny, like you could put it in your pocket. So each one of those filters is 12 foot in diameter.
Wow.
And the pad, the cement pad under them is 15 by 30. And so the building that went over it was 50 by 50. Now this one's made to pump 1,200 gallons a minute, so that's more than you've got going.
Yep.
So it's possible you can get away with one of those trains, so 15 by 30, a primary and a secondary filter.
Right, this is basically the setup we saw earlier was just a primary and the secondary. This is
2 primary and
okay.
secondaries. Yeah. So at the McPherson well, if you flip the page, they didn't have any space. It was surrounded by wetlands, and so we ran a long-term test on a single 10-foot diameter filter. And you see the graphic of it down below, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of the filter, but it's good for about 650 gallons a minute, one single filter. We actually kind of tweaked it back to 400 gallons a minute to give us more contact time to make that carbon last longer. We insulated it with, it was only meant to run 16 months. It's been there for almost 3 years now. We put scaffolding around it, wrapped it, put a heater on it. As long as you're flowing water, that water's a big
Sure.
thermal mass, it stays pretty warm. So this was a rental filter. They now have a green sand plant being built, and they'll be putting 2 filters behind it.
And this is the resin type of filter you're talking about?
This one's GAC,
Okay.
so it's carbon. It's single pass, and it's been effectively treating the PFAS that was at 120 to 130 parts per trillion.
Does that dose, that quantity affect how long this lasts?
It does.
Okay.
It's exactly right.
So ours is at the 37, so 40 range.
You would theoretically last 2 or 3 times longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the, if you don't mind me asking, what's like the maintenance schedule on this?
That's great. So this has iron and manganese levels about half of your well.
Okay.
And you're not supposed to backwash these because it fluffs up the filters, but we did because the iron and manganese oxidized in the filter. So it's in an 8-week cycle where we fluff the filter bed, blow off as much iron as we can. What we do is we drain down the filter so all the water has time to contact the carbon, and then the PFAS is on the carbon. We backwash with system water, which is PFAS free, and we go to ground. So this is something you can do, and we kind of advise working with DEP for seasonal use, for seasonal well use. So your well, if you're going to consider it as a peaking well in summertime, it's not a bad idea. I would still say you'd probably want a 2-filter setup because it gives you it gives Fran some peace of mind.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So this is great. The Patton well, named after, yes, General George Patton over at Devon's, right?
I like that one already.
Yeah, has manganese, a lot like your well. We put in 3 small resin vessels, and by small, if you look at the picture at the bottom of that page, those are 4-foot diameter, about as tall as I am, maybe 7 feet tall. They're in, you can see the ripples, they're in a shipping container. This is as simple as it gets, guys. Shipping container, we foam insulated the inside, we piped her up, set it on gravel, right? And we put a special sequestrant. We sequestered the iron and manganese as best we can ahead of this resin. It kind of impacts the resin's ability to take out PFAS by about 20%, but it allowed us to run these, and they've been running for 2 years, and the media is still good. We're about to change it out tomorrow.
Wow.
So 2 years, concentration's higher than yours. You see the iron and manganese, they're about 0.3, 0.4 dissolved, which you're a little bit higher, but not too much.
At the slow rate, we were at like 0.4. At full rate, it's 0.7 to 1.0. So it's
Right. So recently, we just added a couple carbon filters ahead of this resin. Resin's expensive, carbon's cheap. We put 2 small carbon filters, and we're running it now as a hybrid system. Carbon followed by resin. And we're going to sacrifice the carbon to oxidize that iron. And we're about to try to get approvals for Linfield Center Water District as well to do that hybrid system. And that's kind of what we talked about at your well site. Maybe put a sacrificial filter up front.
Well, would that be for the manganese or
Iron and manganese
Okay.
should oxidize in that first filter.
versus a green sand type of thing?
Yeah, the problem with the green sands, and I'll just be honest, right? You backwash the green sands.
Gotta flush it, and you're flushing it right back.
And where do you go with that?
Right back out.
And then you get residuals.
Yep.
And I gotta tell you, if you start handling residuals and EPA makes this a hazardous material and you've concentrated it in your residuals, now you've got a waste hauling issue.
Sure.
There's some hope there. We didn't talk about it, but there are some folks, we have a vendor in South Carolina that's testing electrochemical oxidation. And so what they're using is 2 charged anodes, and they juice it, right? And it destructs the PFAS. So we're hoping that if you have a backwash and a residuals tank, you can just zap the residuals tank and then discharge that free and clear. But nobody's approved that yet. So that's on the horizon. Right now, I think you could set something up for use of that well. The funding is coming out pretty readily. You all are aware of this state revolving loan fund. SRF funds were previously about $800 million a year for water and wastewater in the state. This year they're going to be $1.4 billion. They added $600 million. The PFAS is attacked with a zero interest loan, so PFAS is eligible for zero interest. And there's always the potential for loan forgiveness because the state is trying to not have PFAS be an impact to utility purveyors. And so we're very hopeful that anybody that borrows money to handle this problem, unforeseen problem, will get loan forgiveness of some portion of their funding in the future. Just a couple other quick pictures. You can see the slabs and the foundation going in at Shabokin down at the bottom. Not huge, but not small. Different footprints can get squeezed onto different sites. But almost everybody has done an initial, what I call feasibility study. So for Concord or Sudbury or the Calm Fire District in Barnstable, or even the work we're doing now in Linfield Center, right? You kind of want to say, okay, should we take that water and blend it somewhere else? Should we take that water and treat with manganese and then treat for PFAS? Or should we just treat on site? And there's 2 or 3 options. You would probably want to look at costs for the different options. And that's what we recommend, is that initial feasibility study. You've missed the SRF funding for this year, right? The intended use plan, the IUP projects are already listed. But it's a rolling application towards this September probably, or August for the next one. And in that application, you tell them what your feasible options were, how you studied it, and apply for funds. It doesn't mean you have to use them. It doesn't mean you have to go forward. You just get in the line. Mm-hmm. And that's what Fran and I talked about. Looking at your options, you guys making an informed decision about what you do or don't want to try to improve, and then see how you can get funding for it. There are some grants, or have been some grants, that pay for the design work for PFAS. And I think we talked about sitting down with Central Region and looking at that. Bob Boswick and company have been pretty good and helpful. They've been really good in Worcester.
So when you talk about the monies available, those are, I understand the grants for the design, but as far as everything else, it's just an interest-free loan. There's no grants per
With
se.
the possibility of forgiveness you had mentioned, but
Right.
that's, I don't know, you don't know that on the front end going into it?
There have been some, they offer, I don't want to disclose who and where because I'm not, but there was recently one where they gave $800,000. They offered $600,000 a loan, $200,000 was a grant. It was in response to an emergency where they had to use the well. It was an MCL violation. They didn't have the funds to do it, so
Sure.
you guys don't have to use this well.
Understood. I guess that for us, sitting over here is, it's a financial thing. We need to look at the feasibility of this. Is it worth it? / we've talked in the future right now, it's 20 parts per million on the PFAS. If that line moved, which we don't know if it will or not, would be in jeopardy with our other wells being, well, they're well intolerance now. It's just we need to kind of skate around this to find the best approach to put this. I'd love to see it online, but at the same time, I don't want to spend $umpteen million doing it,
So it is funny. We've had clients say, okay, we don't want to spend the money on the big tickets, the filters, right? The vessels are hard to get. The big vessels are 22 weeks away. So we've had people just lay out the gravel, pour the pad, do the piping, and dead end it.
Yep.
And then if they needed it, they'd call for the filters and they could mount it up. It's an interesting way of doing things.
Yeah.
So you've teed it up, you spent as little as you can up front,
Right.
and then but you're ready to go with everything to hook it up.
Sure.
And that's DEP's, willing to work on that end as well. So they've approved that.
So like this patent one, I happen to be attracted to it because of the containerized portion of that.
Yeah, it's neat.
That's a really that saves a lot of the steps and money, and that's at 650 gallons per minute, roughly.
Patent's only running at 140 per each filter.
Okay.
So we're running about 420.
What is the Hickory Hills?
500.
Okay. So that would be probably undersized for that, or
You can make it a 4 filter system
Sure.
instead of 3.
Okay.
Any of these systems underground?
Yeah,
Like a vault?
no.
Okay.
Do you
Curious.
want to try one?
Well, so you can lay these filters on their sides, so you could put them in the ground. It's not a bad idea, you know. We
Yeah.
found also that there's cheaper vessels than steel, the painted steel. These are ASME coated to the
Yeah.
right pressure ratings, but we found fiberglass FRP filters that are cheaper. You know, they don't promise the 20-year life cycle, they promise 15 years, but PFAS is being taken out of the environment, right? More and more manufacturing of PFAS is being taken off of pans, coatings, particularly the PFOA and the PFOS, which are a little more toxic. So I assume that levels are going to go down. You don't have a real clear source at that site that I could see, though we haven't done much investigation. Most people have a smoking gun like Pease, where they poured 90,000 gallons of firefighting foam on it, or a fire station academy where they're training like Barnstable, right? But we do know of Sharon and Sudbury are probably most likely septic system impacts. That it's in the septic systems, and it's in our bodies at some level. So it's in the waste stream, but it's also, if you scrub your sunbrella, I shouldn't say a manufacturer's name, but if you scrub a flame retardant fabric, that fibers come off, and they did a study at Pease of the. They have nurseries and workers and firefighters, and they did a study there, and they found that the kids 2 to 3 years old had the highest levels. And everybody's wondering why, because they should be processing some of it better than others, because, well, me as an old guy, there's organs that aren't filtering this PFAS out as easily, right? But it's the hand to mouth of the fibers that then they ingest, and so they had more of it than others. So it isn't all in drinking water, but the problem is when they do the risk, they say you might have this exposure plus you have drinking water. When we add the two together, the level comes way down. And you're right, EPA is looking at reducing it.
Do you have any ideas what's projected for a rate to reduce it to?
Oh, like a level for the new MCL?
Yes.
I find that the utility industry is telling the regulators that they have to abide by this requirement, that they have to look at the economic benefit, the cost benefit. And when you start saying you're going to lower the level to 10, and that triples the number of systems, there's not that much benefit in my mind from going from 20 to 10. It's like, to me, the New Hampshire DS had the greatest analogy, right? You go to the grocery store, you buy food. You go to the vegetable stand, and you have your choice. You can buy vegetables, or you can buy the organic, super high-priced, super clean, supposedly clean vegetables. We have an obligation to provide fire protection and water, drinking water to a certain standard. People want it a little bit better, or they want, maybe that they should be putting on their own smaller filters. That's always the case, So it's just my opinion. It's not. It's that. They should be hard-pressed to lower the MCL, because the economic benefit versus the costs and the health benefits it's not there. 20 was pretty low, and 20 was basically set for highly immunocompromised people, infants, and sick people, right? So a normal healthy person, there's no clear evidence that the ingestion of this water is that much more.
Do we have any prices on these?
Oh yeah. So let's get to the costs kind of thing. It's pretty competitive out there. So the big filters, 10-foot diameter filters, the pair of filters with a valve rack and the media is about $900,000.
Okay.
So that's a 10-foot diameter. So those smaller filters you saw at Patton, that system's more in the range of $250,000.
Okay.
But it's housed in a
But are we
shipping container.
somewhere in between that? Because I don't think we're at the level that we need the big filters, but I think we might need a little bit more than the patent setup.
Yeah. So the reason I had suggested, Fran, that we sit down with DEP is one of the things that we're trying to push DEP is to allow you to treat half the water and then reblend it. So say your concentration goes to 25, you treat half.
You reblend it,
Reblend it.
and you've dropped your levels. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so, you've got a pressure drop through the filters, so you gotta have a pressure reducing valve, but it's a really good way to handle a source, probably a better way to handle a source that's used for peak. A peaking source, not just a constant source. And so you'll see full plants in the $2 to $3 million range. These fast, quick systems, if you want to run them for 2 to 3 years and run demonstration pilot studies, more in the $250,000 range. That one at Patton takes the operators a few hours every 2 to 3 weeks to go back flush or manipulate something. So there's some labor cost in it. The cheaper you go, the more labor you're probably gonna.
They're good.
When you talked about the resins, you physically go pump the resin out and then it goes somewhere else to get
When you change
cleaned.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll take a vac truck.
Yeah.
We'll vac it out, we'll put it in drums.
Yeah.
They'll test it for the levels, and then it's accepted probably in Buffalo or somewhere else for an incineration facility.
And then
They truck it, and then they put, they put new resins in when they pull it out.
So I mean, obviously there's a maintenance cost to this.
Yeah, probably every 2 years you're gonna be changing out the media.
Okay.
Is there a
Doesn't Devon's burn that stuff you said earlier?
Devon's will send it off-site to burn somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
What's a rough maintenance cost? Is it based on the size of obviously based on the size of the facility and whatnot, but
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
there a range in,
so if you're treating 450, 500 gallons a minute, low levels, media every 2 years, that media is probably $50,000 to change out
To
And
include
how often is that?
every 2 years. That's,
And that includes like the disposal, the trucking, the whole like.
Right.
Yeah.
So, part of it is this iron and manganese. It'll follow the media a little bit quicker. Other folks have TOC, the organic carbons, just naturally occurring from roots, and that follows it up a little bit too. So.
and the system we're just talking about numbers right now is based on a PFAS, doesn't include a system to pre-filter the
No, so
iron and manganese.
at your levels, I would try to run PFAS with a sequestration
Yeah.
in it and see how far you go. And I, honestly, for you, I would try it for 2 to 3 years with a temporary system that someone would take away later and see how you go. And then you'd really know your true costs.
Do you see possibility that DEP is going to allow you to filter half the water and reblend it, and would that work with the iron and manganese as well?
They have, they've done it for temporary systems,
Yeah.
right? You have a 1,000-gallon-minute source, it's over the limit, it's your only source. You can quickly slap on some filters and try to redo it. Permanent solutions, long-term, probably not, but I see them as working with you. I see as a peaking well that's run seasonally. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't they? That should be okay. Maybe they want you to cut it down below 10, which is kind of a mental trigger for them. But so maybe it's 2/3 treated, 1/3 slipstreamed and reblend. That's why I say the feasibility study is probably the best way to go.
Right. Fran, is that the money we're going to be putting aside is pretty much a feasibility study, and that would cover the discussion with DEP to try to figure out what's the best way
I hope so.
the best system we would hope to. Okay.
So are there any of these designs that we could possibly fit in that area? Like if we went to something maybe underground or
We could shoehorn it in, yeah.
You're talking about Keating's well?
hay rails? Because we're limited area hay rails.
Yeah, right, I was,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, there's not much room down there.
I think, it's pretty close to water table, but we could drop it 4 feet, have a lower building, keep it within that roof line, shoehorn in smaller vessels, and you're gonna have to tape it out. We taped it out at 20 by 30, might fit in there, so we could probably fit something in four small vessels, square pattern.
That'd be a temporary. That would be like a 5-year system.
See, I would recommend you stick build something over a pad and gravel and
Yeah.
and run
And
this.
then run that for a couple of years to see, get some
Yeah.
real baseline numbers to figure out the best long-term solution.
You don't know that this isn't going to drop to 16, 17, 15, 14
After running it for a year,
in the groundwater, right? This comes out of the waste stream. The national average in blood levels is declining. So it's shouldn't be increasing in general discharge from wastewater or anything else. It should be declining. And if you get below 10, I gotta believe that 10 is gonna be this magic number where they're just gonna leave you alone forever.
what is it now there?
37.
Oh,
Now, when you just said blood levels, is that something the medical associations take into effect when you go have a blood test for something? I mean, did they?
Nobody's testing for it.
No?
They've done special health studies. There's a national NHANES study that's been done. They had blood samples taken from a lot of people in 2005 and 2015, and they compared in that 10 years. There was a drop. In Portsmouth at the Pease base, they tested 1,700 people. And of course, if you've seen the Dark Waters movie, that was the first blood level study. These compounds adhere to blood protein, and so they stick in your body for a little while until your kidneys and things can process. So the long chain ones can stay around for quite a few years. The short chain compounds, it's just days.
So is there a tolerance for that your body can tolerate before you have kidney failure or something? Or?
So yeah, the medical, they call them epidemiological studies. They just take forever. They're just now studying them, and it'll be 20 years before they figure out cause and effect or correlation. The one thing they do know is that firefighters have the highest rate of testicular cancer in the nation, most likely because of PFAS. And then there was a study in Europe that showed that elevated levels in children's blood cause them not to develop antibodies as much. So suppressed immune system, maybe, I don't know.
Now the firefighters, are you talking about firefighters that use a lot of foam or just?
Yeah,
yeah.
it would be the foam. It would be folks that use foam, but almost every fire department has foams. The state has switched out.
The foam that they use, yeah.
They reformulated the foams. They're all short chain now. They still use one of these classes of chemicals, right? There's some 600 of these PFAS chemicals. I mean, chemists love this stuff, right? They dreamed it up to make life better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Denver airport, you've seen it with the big tarps and the Superdome in Michigan, that fabric is all full of this stuff. It keeps it clean, everything slides off of it, and life is good, right? But
Yeah.
life might not be so
Right.
good.
It worked, but we had a little side effect.
So we're a little bit stuck with it because until it comes out of a lot of the products we use, it'll be in the waste stream for a while.
The configuration of these 4 tanks, do they have to be configured like this, or can they be circles or in line? Or
They can be in line.
all depends on the plumbing, I guess.
Yeah,
what's easiest.
some people think of 3 filters. Some people put a big carbon filter and then 2 smaller resins on
Okay.
it.
I just didn't know if they had to be 2 and 2 like that.
Yeah, I work with about 30 engineers, and you can't even believe the number of configurations they can come up with. So,
Yeah.
No, I can't.
How about one on top of the other?
I've seen them pretty tight side by side, but
Yeah.
and we haven't seen them in the ground, but we have seen them horizontal. So yeah,
Maybe we get a
Surprised.
we get a patent on that one in the ground.
there you go.
In a shipping container. I know that's what you're thinking. I'm thinking the same thing.
Well,
twice.
I guess what I'm thinking about this is not just from your end, but like from our end is cost. And obviously to pour a foundation and put any type of building around it is going to increase the cost a lot.
Yeah, you're
And
better
if this
off
is,
with a pad.
and if this is just something that's basically to give us a baseline study, I'm trying to, if you can stick this thing on some gravel and you put a 53 footer in there,
Yep.
that is a humongous cost savings.
Yep.
How big is that pad for 4?
We have that in a 20-footer.
That's in a 20 footer?
The 3 vessels.
Sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just
Buy a
saying,
40, we can put 6 in it.
right, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I think if this is just a study to try to do this as efficiently as possible, I would gravitate towards that versus pouring a foundation. I mean, you don't need a building permit for this thing.
After so
It's a
many square
temporary
feet, you
structure,
gotta put a frost wall in too.
Right, well, you'd have to have if you put any type of building, you have to have a minimum of frost wall, blah, blah, blah. This is, I mean,
Yeah.
you may need, I don't know, what is it, 200 square feet in Lunenburg, a 10 by 20 would actually be, technically, wouldn't even need a building permit for it. So, that's something for us to discuss.
You guys are welcome to come see Devon's at any time. The operator of that plant is Suez, which is
Yeah.
a national firm. The Mass Development owns the systems out there at Devon's. There's been 6 or 7 different water utilities that have come out and seen the Patton well. If you want to come out tomorrow.
I mean, I'd love, especially.
Tomorrow we'll be there
Yeah,
all
for like
day.
you guys to look at it, and as far as like from the maintenance end of things, I mean, that's the other thing, I don't wanna create
Trip
a,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
we gotta go
Yeah,
there
what-
twice a week and, you know.
You said that the Devons takes so much maintenance every couple weeks?
The Patton well?
Patton well, yeah.
Yeah, it's a daily, a visit, half a day, every couple weeks. But most pump stations,
Oh, yeah,
running, you
that's-
visit daily, right?
Yep.
So you walk over, open the door to the system, any leaks, what are the pressures, maybe grab a sample when you need to, and then if the pressures are up, you gotta backwash them. So,
And what is that one backwash to, just right back?
so the resins, that's the beauty of the resins, the backwash is really low rate.
Right.
Yeah.
The carbon, if you have a 450 gallon a minute carbon filter, you got to backwash at 600 gallons a minute. The resins, if you have 150 forward flow, the backwash is 15 gallons a minute. It's a really low rate.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're going to get the media out of there tomorrow, see how badly the manganese has impacted the resins. We're going to send that off to our vendor, Purolite, is going to look at that
Do you
microscopically.
know offhand what the manganese levels are at that facility right now?
0.3 and 0.4.
Okay.
And there's no pre-filter into that system?
We're just putting on carbon as a sacrificial pre-filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've been putting a sequestrant in to keep things moving through.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
that
what was their PFAS levels there for you?
130.
Ooh.
Sorry, we're not supposed to say that. Jeez.
And it seems like a lot, but we're talking parts
I
per
know,
trillion.
yeah.
And think,
Yeah.
so probably,
I'd be very curious how that media looks now that after everything you'd explained.
I'll save you some.
I'd
Bring you some.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Ziploc bag. Yeah,
Numbers wise, I'm wondering how that,
Yeah, I'd like to see what that looks like.
yeah.
If that's,
Believe me, I'm gonna get a few jars of it for future
okay.
show and tell. We have had some looked at under a microscope. I have some pictures of that.
Yeah.
And you can see the little beads all fractured and the coatings are different and they
Sure.
actually have measured the manganese on the outside of it in, microns. But it's interesting. It's fun with water chemistry, I guess, but it's unfortunate. I do think levels will go down. That's why I'm not a strong advocate of spending millions of dollars when you could come below the drinking
Right.
water standard in the future.
Well, what you've explained, they're producing less, therefore less going in the ground, filtering everything that comes out, so
At some
your levels,
point, it has
your
to,
levels
right.
In
hypothetically should.
Right, in urban or city areas where there's some manufacturing, it's in the rainfall. They've measured it. They measured it in Jamaica Plain at 5 parts per trillion in the rainfall.
Wow.
Which the science, I think, is going to come around to the fact that, background, what they say is the background is going to be 4 or 5 parts, I think, in general. And so you're going to be hard pressed to say that, having the drinking water standard just above background is something that you should be responsible for treating,
Right.
right? Because, I thought I shut that off. That's fine.
So you think this would be similar to the MTBE, which was in the water, which we don't detect in any of the.
It will be, yeah, that's my prediction.
MTBE was in the what they used to put in the gasoline,
Yeah.
and that was
Anti-knock.
kind of the same similar thing that it was never filtered out by the soils, so it traveled everywhere. So we had detects in all our wells, and I remember we got paid money from somebody. They sued the gas people, so we ended up getting money. That's how we paid for the design engineer for the heating well.
Yeah.
And at that time we were getting detects, and now it's gone. So I kind of think this, maybe when you said this is on the decline, I think maybe
Yeah,
it'd be the similar thing.
I hope this goes the way of the dodo bird, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be tough if you go out and spend $3 million and
Right.
5 years later, you don't need it anymore.
You don't need a treat for it 'cause it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
But in this case, if we're treating iron and manganese, we're doing a good thing.
Understood.
Yeah,
No matter
that's
what.
gotta always be there, I guess.
But I guess at the end of this study is when we figure out, hey, look at our levels went down, we're good. I'm all for putting something in as cheaply and as temporarily as possible to give us that line, but I don't think we should be building that.
No.
Not from what I've heard, to build a long term.
Right.
And not for a seasonal well that
Right.
peaks.
Well, that's the other thing too. If we did get this and we got it up and running, I'm assuming that we would run that well, basically enough to exercise it. But I mean, would we run it year round?
I'd like to use it as one that rotated through our sources.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
Maybe
we're
not
gonna-
run it every day of the week, but maybe Tuesday, Friday.
Sure.
You know,
Yes, I would like to get it in the rotation. Get on.
Yeah,
the team.
just rotate.
Right.
That's what we do now. We'll run 2 wells
Sure.
this day, and then a couple days later, we'll run those wells, the other wells, and, just cycle them.
Right.
So the only funding is for the engineering then?
The
No.
funding is
Oh,
for
the-
construction.
Construction.
There may be emergency funding for the design. You're more likely to get that if you were in an emergency situation.
Yeah, the design, I guess, is what I was talking about. So if we wanted to get it designed, something designed, we'd have to pay for that. There wouldn't be any funding.
So let me tell you the trick here. It's above board, they're doing it. We don't do full design. What we do is we design a pilot system and we submit a pilot test application to DEP and we submit an alteration of your treatment, hand in glove, 2 permits, right? But it's not out to bid, it's not out formal design, and then you go ahead and kind of piece it together yourself. You guys can do a lot of the piping yourself. You're talking probably 4-inch PVC piping and
Yep. You
it's,
know that.
I like how you're looking this way, you should be looking that way. You guys could do it.
yeah,
No, you guys have to come in and help.
I'll help you, but you don't want to see my piping. So yeah, the internals inside the filter vessels and that little housing, usually we get that all sent, right?
Right.
But the external yard piping and hooking it
Sure.
up and running a little heater over to that, man, that's easy stuff. And you can buy a trailer or,
Yeah.
we've seen, Kennebunk Water in Maine, they just put it in a shed.
Yeah. Huh.
Is that where the water line runs on top of the ledge? Up there?
We don't have current room in the building we have down there. I haven't been in there in a long
No,
time.
there's nothing in there. I don't think so.
Tight,
Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
real tight. So yeah, Shelter Logic shed, stick built,
Shelter lodge.
yeah. Honestly, that's what they did.
Yeah.
But,
Go down to Home Depot, get a
storage
tent in a box.
container.
Yep.
If you run through the winter, you're obviously gonna wanna insulate it, but if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not. So I will tell you that the resins don't like to be off too long, right? So, running them twice a week is great. If you leave them off for a couple weeks, you wanna run them to waste for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have, for some reason, they create an odor if they sit. Carbon, not so much, but the resins want to be kept wet and fresh water move through.
So what's our next move here? Figure out a way to do some kind of a pilot thing, or talk, well, I know we gotta talk about it a lot more, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get
Yeah,
a,
I would
an
assume,
idea
yeah, be
where we're going.
something on the base level, get the thing off the ground, see what we're gonna do, and then maybe go, with the temporary, I don't know.
Well, we have a couple extra vessels down, fiberglass vessels down in Barnstable right now. You're welcome to, we could fill those up with some media and you could plumb them up and we could send that into DEP and run a test this summer and turn it off in the fall.
Now, where would you connect on it? In the building that's already there, or dig the main up and,
Usually on the main outside of the station.
Yeah, so the main goes through that little trough way,
yeah,
and then when it gets outside, it drops, well, actually, right before it gets outside, it drops down on the ground. So we could probably just get it right outside the building and then repipe it to.
So what, you gotta tap the main and pipe it into the,
Would it be just tap the main or just relocate the
We
main?
put a T in valves on it,
So you could, all
stuff
right.
it up to a flange, and then we'll hook up to the flange.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, we could do that.
And that would be part of the funding that we have allocated for the pilot study? Or no?
Yeah. we
I mean, some of our work.
That's part of the whole thing. So
Right.
what size main comes out of that building?
6.
So what, you put tap and sleeve on the 6 and,
No, because we could shut the main route, we'll just cut it in a T.
Cut it.
Probably put in valves so we can isolate.
So you can isolate.
Yeah,
the
you
oil.
have to, yeah.
so you'd go into these units with a 6-inch main, 6-inch
Well,
pipe.
if he said 4, we'd reduce down to 4, run
Well, yeah, but I mean-
1 4.
Depends how much you want to flow. You know, your pump, we can give you back pressure and you can back your
Right.
pump off, but you're just running that pump a
I
little.
would think that we'd pull out the 6 that it has and then reduce it like close to above ground type thing.
Yeah.
Because this is just a study, we don't.
And would you end up doing that carbon filter ahead of time to try to pull out the iron and
I would
manganese?
do carbon resin. Yeah, hybrid system, put a carbon filter first and a resin filter second.
Cool.
I'll let you know what Northeast Region thinks about it next week. That's what
Okay.
we're doing in Linfield Center. And they've approved the patent, we've changed it to a carbon first and resin second. That's going to go online tomorrow. We're changing out the resin to be new and the carbon's in front of it right now. So, interesting stuff. It does better in person when you're looking at this.
Absolutely.
You can see simple and complex. The Portsmouth plant that we built was a $12 million plant because they wanted all stainless steel vessels. So
But it looks cool.
Shiny.
someone else was
Ours will
paying for
definitely be.
it.
and you're spending somebody else's money on it.
Give us a couple vessels that are dented and got a couple scuffs on them, we'll be fine.
I do have refurbished vessels in South Carolina.
Now you're speaking our language.
There we go.
Yeah. I
They
like-
just need sandblasted and painted to come to code.
Oh, we can scrape them down and roll.
You guys need something to do in the winter time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No.
So once you do the pilot study, if you did that this summer, say this went through and they decided to do everything, would you have your numbers ready to go to submit to DEP before, you said the next round of funding is August, September? Would we have something ready if we did this pilot study this summer to submit?
So
To say,
I
this is what we
I would
think?
submit for SRF funding anyways.
Yeah, even if this pilot study wasn't ready, if you kind of had an idea.
Even if we started right now,
Yeah.
you won't get enough data in the resin to conclude your pilot till September.
Okay,
Right, because it takes that long for the PFAS to kind of start working its way down through that. The resin pilots take about 8 months.
so what would you, how would you determine what would be best for our system? If you didn't have the data yet, but we wanted to go for funding,
No, that's
if we
a great-
needed it, you know?
That's a great question. That's why I started the conversation. You got to look at 3 options: build at that site, build somewhere else, or blended facilities. Based on that, you would come up with a conceptual design, go into SRF and apply for the funding. You'd go in a little high, right? And then as you work through your pilot, you could modify that design. You're really just trying to get on the list. You would get on the list this fall. It doesn't get awarded till next March, and then you have time to finalize your design and go out to bid. So you get a whole
Gotcha.
year.
Yeah.
You're getting in.
Yes,
You
getting
have
our
to get
name
in
on it.
now.
So,
Yep.
when you get in that list, is that list like, prioritized in any way, shape, or form, or like how what's our best odds of getting the money?
So that list is prioritized. You'll be going against other water systems that have needs.
Okay.
Including lead and copper replacement
Right.
systems for the lead service lines, other people that have other water quality threats, including nitrates or,
Sure.
that list used to stop like after 20 projects. This
Correct.
year, 60 projects got
Okay.
approved. Right, the people that were down at the bottom were, I don't know how to say this nicely, like really wealthy communities that really didn't need it,
Sure.
could pay for it themselves, and they don't score high.
Right. So we need to look like we really need this and we're broke.
We've got on the list a few times. You know, we've got on it. Katie Well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Steel tank.
I just, like that was one of the conversations we had earlier about this is, this is all fine and great, but like, what are our chances of getting funding? Like, I don't want to I don't want to go through a bunch of,
Good, I think next year's funding might even be more than this year, and they,
Okay.
you know, they almost doubled it this year.
okay.
It's IIJA funds, the Infrastructure Job Recovery Act funds, and they're doubling down, and the state is pushing it through
Sure.
the SRF program, so they think they're gonna have even excess monies, and the excess monies will be applied to loan forgiveness, so. And that's a 5-year program, so you won't see this again.
Right.
Not in our lifetimes, I don't think.
What do you mean?
I didn't mean to look at you, Frank.
Now, the spot you're looking at down there is on the left-hand side of the pump station now?
As you're looking. from the-
Driving down to the right.
Oh, to the right.
Yeah, well, beside the hill.
Isn't there an open spot on the left-hand side?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But not enough.
We'll make it L-shaped.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the thought process was to not disturb those views, you know? We want to just keep
Yeah.
tucked to the side if we can.
And paint it with trees on it.
I was gonna say no hot pink containers down there.
So I got a whole different question for you.
Yeah.
Hard water. What, is it treatable? I mean, what, is it difficult, expensive?
What levels? Calcium.
150 to 200?
What volume? What flow, right?
Range 500 to 1,000. It's a 1,000 gallon a minute well.
Yes.
If we run it at 1,000 gallons a minute, the hardness drops way off. So we were running it at 500, the hardness was okay. We dropped it to 300 because this time of year we don't need a whole lot of water. We dropped to 300, now the hardness is really right up to the 200
And you're
mark.
getting hot water heater complaints and,
Yeah, so now we're, we just ran at 1,000 gallons a minute and doing samples on it. And hoping we can drop the hardness down. We'll just run 1,000 if that's better. You know, so instead of running at 8 hours, we run at 4. So it's
so
not-
if you're dropping, it's pulling water from somewhere farther away that's a little bit more acidic. If you
Okay.
get a pond or a swamp that's
It's
a
yeah,
little further away.
swamp out there, yeah.
Yeah. That's, so you're changing the geochemistry when you pump harder, so you're dropping that hardness.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
we'll see how it
Run it
goes.
hard and see what you get. That'd be cheaper than treating it.
Okay.
Using that natural lower.
Yeah, so what, do you have a number that is like, okay?
Let me get that back to you. Yeah. Let me-
Because when we run it hard, it's in the 130s.
Okay. And you'd like to see it down half that?
I'd like to see 130s, no one seemed to complain.
Yeah,
so.
200 is usually when people start
Yeah,
to moan.
yeah.
225, 250, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we've never been, I don't think we've been.
Got to Williamstown, they drilled it in limestone. See how you like it.
Okay, so we'll run it hard and then we'll see how it goes after that, so,
Cheaper to run it hard.
yeah.
I'm not being funny about it.
No,
No,
It's
yeah.
true. So you probably are.
You're speaking John's language. You love that.
That's right.
Yeah, I always treat this like, what would I do if it was coming out of my pocket,
Right.
right? How else do you want to make those decisions? So, well, thank you.
Great.
for the
No, thank you for
Thank
coming
you
in.
for coming in.
It's fun. Like I say, you want to come by Devon's tomorrow? We're starting at 8 a.m.
What's the address down
It's
there?
at Patton Road. I'm coffee. Yeah.
Field trip tomorrow.
Too many donuts, I don't get much work done.
Is that closer to the Jackson Gate or the Air Gate?
It's about halfway in between.
It's in the middle there.
Yeah,
I
right.
wanna say I've been by Patton Road.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's been by.
You just don't see it because like there's a little gate and then it drops right down into the Patton well site. So you just look off to the southern side of the Patton Road and it's right there. You guys are more than welcome. John Cormier is the Suez superintendent. But you got my cell number, just give a call. I'll be there all day tomorrow.
Okay, all right,
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for the name.
Yes.
Take care and enjoy.
Thanks for coming in.
Yep. Take care, guys.
We got a little time, we'll go over,
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I saw a McCarty truck. So I was thinking, I'm scared it's the plans
Oh,
getting dropped off, the
okay.
new ones.
PFAS.
is it worth holding on to this or somehow posting that information somewhere? That he
I
gave
don't
us?
know if we need to, I don't know if any of that's even gonna come up. I mean, this is preliminary study just to
Right, I mean,
get the
that
thing off the
was,
ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know me, I'm always for redundancy, and right now we're utilizing both sources, so if we can get this thing online, we got a redundant source. And that's my goal, so I mean, I don't think people,
no, I was thinking this information.
oh, that, PFAS.
The stuff that, about
Yeah, how can we
PFAS,
do that?
he has his PowerPoint. Is
I
there
could ask
way-
him if he could send me some of this, I could ask him if he has, public, something that they have to submit to
just
the
post on the
public.
website,
Yeah,
you can just
yeah, I'll
make a
see
link.
about,
Yeah,
let me, I'll try following up with him and see if we can find something that they have, maybe drawn up already.
I thought you were talking about the other one with the water. thing.
Oh, no.
Have you,
Yeah, you wanna advertise that
have you
one.
heard anything from anybody down Hickory Hills?
Haven't heard a word?
They're aware?
They're aware, it's on our
Public
agenda.
meeting, so-
And
All right.
and Fran has contacted us to come in and talk to us if they have any questions.
Right, I mean, so, I mean, for the people that are listening, it's just, hopefully they're following, it's just a general discussion about the well that's there and how to get it, to make it usable. And I think it's evident why we want it usable is a backup / let's use it.
All right, so with the manganese, if there was a critical situation, we could have put it online.
Correct.
And we probably would just have to put out health advisories that, hey, there's high manganese, you know, for baby formulas and stuff like that. Now with this PFAS, that well's offline. You
Right.
can't even use it.
Yep.
So I mean, although it was inactive, it was still a viable source.
Right.
And now it's not, so I just prefer to have it as a source that we could use.
Seeing that it's already there and it's ready to be
Permitted,
used,
yes.
permitted and everything, and if for some reason we run into another problem. I think
the backside.
All our other wells are at the other end of the line, and if those for some reason went off, we'd have a problem. We wouldn't have any water.
We'd be hooking up to Fitchburg or Leominster.
We can't do that, and then we have no pressure.
We have to pump it.
Yeah. We can use one of the fire trucks.
Well, it's got PFAS all over it.
That was pretty good.
That was good.
Woody, I think you can read these, but I don't think you signed those because you weren't here at the last, the last
Yes,
meeting.
that was not him.
Yeah.
I heard you guys did okay without me.
Perfect,
Perfect.
You were missed.
yeah. Well, where would you go, where did you go?
Wow.
Oh,
You said that 4 o'clock we're doing the bid opening?
Yes, and then we get Gary from Stantec coming a little after 4. So
Okay.
he's gonna go through the same stuff,
PFAS?
PFAS. And then we can hit him on the new garage, I mean this one, you know, ask him, you know, because some things weren't fixed, so I mean the floors are still all wavy.
All right, so the guy that's coming at Ford, is he another vendor of this, basically? Okay.
He called, because he's doing the water main on Mass Ave, so if you have any questions for that, we can go into more of that when he's here for that. But that was the original reason why he came, and then I told him Weston and Sampson was coming to talk about PFAS. So he wants to jump in on that too, so.
I did see Whitman and Bingham surveying 2A today, by Townsend Harbor.
Yeah, because that's included in the warrant, their bill.
Yeah, and I heard
Approve the minute.
Whitman and Bingham is no longer Whitman and Bingham, it's Haley and Ward, I guess.
yeah, they've been sold. It's about probably the 8th time.
And Haley and Ward, I wanna say they do water stuff too, I wanna say.
So do we want to talk about this pilot study any further, or?
We do have, at our last meeting, we went over, and one of the articles was to appropriate funds for the pilot study.
Okay.
So our annual meeting Saturday, we vote, and if we approve it, and, you know, we
If there was-
kind of move forward with what are our options to
Okay.
treat it. And that, I think part of that is them grabbing those tanks and setting up a temporary system and slow it and see what happens.
That was one thing that he came out with that I kinda like, where he put the system in. And we would run the well with that system to see how it works, so I mean.
Yep.
The pilot study that we put in for the article is more little sample sites, just to test the thing.
Sure.
In his case, it was to do the whole, treat the water and pump it, you know, use it.
Yes. I really like the sounds of that, if we can
I agree.
do that, and it is for a couple of years, because it sounds like, so here's the other question I kind of have. Measuring PFAS, as I heard, is not the most exact science in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary,
How we doing?
Come on in.
we got the coffee.
We got Woody, Matt Woodward.
Nice to meet you.
He's the new guy on the board.
New guy? All right. How you guys doing?
Good, how you doing?
Hi.
Eric's coming.
So you gotta kind of sit here so you can be on TV, so.
Yes, you are being recorded.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I believe Gary, you here for the Mass Ave or for PFAS as well?
I can update on Mass Ave first, if we, then we can talk about PFAS after that.
Well, we've already been into PFAS, why don't we stick with, which you wanna cover first, Fran? You wanna stay right with the PFAS?
PFAS fine. Yeah,
And then
keep
we
going
can
at
see
it.
what's going on with the water main on Mass Ave.
So you got the RFPs for the cells, the only one submitted, so it's closed at 4, so you don't have to open it out, but it's
Okay.
closed, so.
Okay, when we get done, we'll open that up, go from there.
Okay. Did you saw my,
I saw.
sent along?
Yep.
Do you want me, I got copies for everybody.
If you wanna give it to them, if you
Oh,
if you don't,
sure.
I'll print out one for me if you didn't bring it out.
I think I do, yeah. So I was talking to Fran, and the,
Don't get confused now.
John, you're always messing with me.
Keeps you on your toes.
So, we had been talking about providing a scope to understand what do you need to do to treat out at Hickory Hills.
Yep.
And so, we've got a scope here, it's a draft. I wanted to have a chance to talk with you about it. If it makes sense, then we'll try and, then we will put some numbers to it to understand what the level of effort is for the cost of that. But what this is basically, ideally you want to position yourself for funding from SRF. And the feds have made a lot of money available for infrastructure projects. And particularly, they're looking at projects that have PFAS. And so what we want to do is some work up front in order to put a good application together in August. And so that's what this scope would allow us to do. It would allow us to understand what would be some good technologies to pilot. We have some ideas on that, but taking a look at the water quality is going to help us better understand that. It's going to help us understand where this treatment plant might be located. You know, as you know, it's on a tight site out there, but there's some other land around that potentially we could put a treatment plant at, and then it's going to allow us to put together some concept numbers on cost of a facility. And that's what DEP's looking for in their SRF application is, this pre-work to understand, to really define the project. And so that's what this does. The other thing this does, the scope does, is it plans the piloting. And because it's you've got iron and manganese out there, you've got PFAS. DEP requires that we do a pilot before designing a treatment plant. And so we do the past 25 years I've done piloting with Blue Leaf, which is Eric Groton. And Eric is, he's first class. He runs a great operation. We've done. We just finished a pilot with him at another project recently, but it seems like every couple of years I've got a different pilot going with him. And I have spoken to him about the job. He is, he has the time to do this one. So when we're ready to get going, he's ready to get going. A couple other things in here that I just wanted to point out is we deal with this type of treatment really all over the country. There's a fair amount of clients that we're seeing are moving ahead they're at this same stage. They're moving ahead with treatment facilities or with planning treatment facilities. There's a little bit more activity happening with some of our staff out in Minnesota. They've got 3 pilots going now, and they've got a couple of plants that have already been built. And so that experience is, we're bringing those folks to our, to projects like this for our clients in New England. The other thing that Stantec does from a regional corporate standpoint is we have an established arrangement with Johns Hopkins University down in Baltimore, Maryland. It's a Stantec Institute that's an alliance with them. So we basically have built a lab down at Johns Hopkins, and one of the main things that they're looking at is all the different resins that are available for PFAS treatment. The other thing that they do there is they can sample for PFAS. So it's kind of it's a complex lab process that usually takes a few weeks. I don't know how you did it before, Fran, when you had the samples taken.
Some took a while. We sent them far away. We shipped them off, and now we just bring them down to air, show the analytical.
Right.
Yeah,
And then they ship them somewhere.
Yeah,
Usually.
yes, they do. Yeah, so it takes a couple weeks. Yeah, before we
So
see
we've actually got a lab in Baltimore that we overnight our samples to, and we're able to get results in 4 days. So that's helpful to our clients because it gives us answers, particularly while we're piloting. It gives us answers while we're still in the field, and we can make adjustments. So my point of bringing that up is this is it's an emerging contaminant. The federal government has seen that, and they're starting to push money towards it. You're in a situation where you've got the problem at a well that you don't use right now, so that's, we're thankful for that. You don't have it in your active wells, which is good. Because I've got other clients that do have it in active wells and they have to shut them off, and now they're in a bind. But the fact is, you've got a source out there, and you put a whole bunch of money into it, you can't use it. But I think there's a nice opportunity here with the feds providing some money, which is grant money and loan, a fair amount of grant money and low interest loan that could help you to finally, realize your investment out there. Because unfortunately, it's mothballed right now, which is unfortunate. So those are the things I wanted to bring to your attention. We can go through the scope if you'd like, but those are some highlights. Some of the other things we have in here, we'd identify the other permitting that needs to be done, local and state permitting that needs to be done. We'd identify all that for you in the report. We would prepare based on all the information we gather in this effort, we prepare the SRF application that's due. The date's not available yet, but it's usually in August. And we'd also submit a plan to DEP because they need to approve the piloting that's proposed. So those are some other things. And the last thing we had, if you were interested, knowing that there was you had some local folks out there that weren't happy you were pumping water from that well, and it feels like a lot of that, obviously since you stopped, the complaining has stopped as well, but thinking that maybe there might be some folks that once they hear that you're wanting to get that project going again, they may try to push their arguments. We did plan a couple of public meetings as well, which I think would be really helpful to get ahead of that, those types of complaints. You know, I think a lot of evidence has been developed on water levels out there that support your side on that. But you know, making the actual public data available to them, as opposed to you know, to try and counter the emotional arguments that you hear, like in a public meeting. I think that being proactive is pretty helpful, and I think it's an opportunity to educate people on what you want to do, and help them understand why you need the project. So that's, we were thinking that you might benefit from some of that time as well.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
Would that be something should be done within the next month or two, or wait till you get the pilot?
Well,
and then we-
I think
Yeah,
we
let's
got
let's get things off the ground.
Yeah, I think once we kind of got all our ducks in a row, that we came up with a game plan of how we want to approach this, and we had like some concrete numbers and our avenue to do this. Then I would
You
definitely.
need to know the facts before
Right.
you bring something
Yes.
hypothetical, because hypothetical will bring a lot of emotion.
And at that point, if we wanted to have invite the public to the meeting to tell them, you know, what we're doing and welcome any
Yep.
comment and.
We'll have the answers for.
Right, we'll have the answers, you know, versus just doing that blasé.
Yeah,
I
no.
definitely prefer not to do it that way.
I agree with that. Having you know, some good information to present is really helpful, because it's more, instead of just sitting back and waiting for the questions, it's usually much better to push out all the information you have so you can educate people.
Sure.
Because then when the questions come back, they're more informed.
Yep.
And people have, you kind of cut off some of their emotional arguments
Yeah.
when you help to educate them.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's, I agree with that approach, that it, you
Yeah.
know, get all your ducks in a row. And the other thing, I think that's helpful is, in an effort to educate, you can do that in a forum like this, where you know, you have a public meeting.
Sure.
You know, you promote it, you try and get people to come, but you know, a lot of people don't come to meetings like this.
Right.
And so one of the things that we found is really helpful is putting together, you know, some fact sheets,
Correct.
maybe that go out with the bills, or other ways that you can communicate.
Sure.
Or, you know, even, you know, this is probably goes to some cable TV or
Yes.
local
Yep.
TV. It's you know, having sessions like this where you talk about the project and help people understand what it is. Anything you can do to educate folks is really beneficial.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gary, do you know much about the process on the pilot study? You mentioned bringing somebody else in to do the actual physical. Like, what's that process look like? Does he do a couple little sample tests and go back to his lab and put his lab coat on, or how does that process work?
So that's a good question. What they do is it's Blue Leaf. Eric Rotten's the owner. He's owned it for 25 years since he first started. We've been working with him. We've used him everywhere in New England. I've used him in Canada. We've used him on the West Coast. He drives out. What he does for a place like this, he'll show up with a trailer, and the trailer has a lab and has all the filter equipment, has chemical feed equipment, has sampling equipment, has computers in there to collect all that data. He's got a sink. You know, all the samples locations come to a sink. He requires you to run the source, and so we'd have to run the source to waste. It doesn't have to run at full capacity, but as long as he gets like 10 gallons a minute, but maybe you'd run it, I think that the well was set up for 500 GPM,
Right.
so maybe if you could run it for a couple hundred GPM or 100 GPM maybe to waste, and he just bleeds off 10 gallons a minute of that into his plant. And the water comes in, It goes through a piping system. He has piping and valving that allow him to run water through different columns, and they simulate a filter bed. So in this case, we're dealing with iron and manganese removal and PFAS. So typically the way that's done is we remove the iron and manganese first, and then use kind of a polishing media for the PFAS. And the reason we do that is because if we did it opposite, the iron and manganese may foul the PFAS media, and it causes a problem. It's not the media then needs to be replaced. It's not easily cleaned. So again, the way we go about it is we'll remove the iron and manganese first. The way that's done, add a little bit of chemical up front. Usually it's chlorine up front it changes the iron and manganese from a liquid state to a solid state, and then you can capture it on the media. And then the water leaves that filter and goes to the PFAS media. And I mentioned earlier that Stantec is doing research on different media, trying to understand, what performs best. These days, people are talking about GAC, which is very common. We use GAC, granular activated carbon, for a lot of different chemicals, and they have found that it's successful in some instances for PFAS removal. But the other media is ion exchange, which is it's a resin that's been chemically treated, and there's hundreds of them. A lot of manufacturers make ion exchange for a lot of different chemicals, and those manufacturers are now focusing their attention on designing those ion exchange medias for PFAS removal. And so because those manufacturers are coming out with all different resins all the time, our folks at the Stantec Institute are getting samples of that media and testing it, so we can get information on what are the best ion exchange medias that can be used. So again, just to kind of recap that, answering your question, what's it look like? It's a trailer.
Yep.
It shows up on site.
How long is it there roughly? What's the sampling time frame on this site?
Typically for an iron and manganese filter plant, when we do the pilot, it's 10 days of piloting.
Okay.
During that 10 days, we can also polish the water with PFAS, whether it's GAC or ion exchange. The reason you probably would want to go longer than that is because after 2 weeks of filtering for PFAS, we will likely show that the PFAS gets removed, but what we won't learn is how long does it take to exhaust that media.
Sure.
And so for that reason, we do like to go longer than 2 weeks. It could be 4 to 6 weeks. And what we're trying to do there is we're trying to we run that water through it's literally a column. It's a piece of plastic pipe. You can see through it. It's got all the media in it, and it's based on the number of bed volumes. So we push water through it. We know how much goes through it. We got a flow meter on it, and it over time we're pushing more and more water through it and getting an understanding of where we can sample that column, and in the top third we can sample off that. Are we seeing any PFAS there? Then we know that it's starting to get used, and then we'll sample that column halfway through, and maybe it takes 3 or 4 weeks to get there. So then we can kind of estimate how long it will take, how long the media will last.
Sure.
Because once the media is exhausted it has to, for PFAS, it has to get replaced.
Now, with that media you talked about before, I mean, there's lots of developments in that. Will you use different media or resin, to maybe fine tune to our specific PFAS problem? I mean, is that what that you're doing in
Yes.
that? Okay.
So what we would typically do, what we've done for others is we have information on all of these resins.
Sure.
So based on that information, we'll select maybe 2 of the resins and we'll do a third column with GAC.
Okay.
And so, and we'll run the pilot for those weeks
Okay.
on, with those, in that scenario.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, we'll understand, first of all, that, we can remove the iron and manganese with certain media, and what chemicals we need to make that happen. But we'll also know which resin worked best for PFAS removal, or did the GAC work better? And so then at the end of that, we write a pilot report, and that informs a preliminary design. So we know what the treatment plant's going to look like.
Where's the discharge go from this trailer?
For the it can go right on the ground.
Okay.
So that's what we recommend. It's at 10 gallons a minute. It's a fair amount of water over time. But the fact is, the water that's being discharged from the plant is theoretically drinking water.
Sure.
Right? So it can be discharged on the ground. Yeah.
So you're talking about 3 weeks at
It's a lot of water.
300 gallons a minute, and you're gonna draw 10 gallons a minute off the side?
Well, we could probably run it less than 300 gallons a minute. What you want to do is, yeah.
We just ran it.
Yeah.
We stopped it 2 months ago. We ran 150 gallons a minute for 6 weeks.
Did it go right back into the
We
lake?
didn't dump it in the lake. There's a hill there. We dumped it over the hill, and then it went into this low area and sat there and then settled in, and then eventually ran into the lake.
They're gonna wanna know how that's gonna affect their water, their lake, with all that discharge going into the lake.
Well, it's
gonna fill it.
We caught it by, we ran into hay bales and stuff. We slowed it all down, so it went into slow. I went through the conservation. I asked them, "What do you want me to do?" And it was okay with what I did.
Because that's gonna be one of the main questions.
That
Where's the
night,
water going?
I think you might wanna fluctuate how much you run the well, because we were just talking about how the hard water is better when you run it full tilt
Yeah, in
versus
this
not.
case, we ran it, the original was 500 gallons a minute. We drew in that iron and manganese quickly. So we ran it on the assumption by pumping it less, we could filter it out or not draw from that area. So we ran it at 150. And instead of being 0.7 for the manganese, we dropped down to 0.4. I mean,
So
we've
what-
been as high as 1.0.
So if you're gonna run that over there for 3-4 weeks, you're gonna run that engine for 3 or 4 weeks
Well, we
straight?
did it on the electric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's doable.
But you still wanna fluctuate, because we're gonna wanna be able to do the test at what the capacity is we're pulling. So
You said you could run it at lower, so as long as the PFAS, and that PFAS result we took was at that 150 gallons a minute. So we did a full round of everything when that well was running.
But if we're gonna put the well online, what are you gonna plan to run it at?
Well, I don't think the PFAS,
You know,
I think the PFAS treatment should be okay. The iron and manganese is gonna be at a higher level.
if
so-
so if we're studying, we're gonna wanna make sure we're drawing the filters big enough for the iron and manganese at whatever rate we're gonna be running it at.
Yeah.
If we draw more iron and manganese at a higher level, you're gonna wanna, some of that run it at a high level.
We want to design the plant for
What are your
the
thoughts?
worst case water quality.
Yeah.
And design it for the worst case water quality, and even have, some flexibility there too.
Yep.
So in that case, Fran, it'd be good if we can get some samples, some water quality samples with the plant, with the pump running at 500 GPM.
I mean, we could run it at 500 for a little while. run them.
Yeah,
we can-
no, you wanna be able to fluctuate a little bit, cause that 500 is gonna draw more
Sure.
out,
Yeah.
and that could affect what your levels are for
And
your water quality.
And then we can do the pilot at, with you running at a more sustainable rate, because it's going to be run for a period of time. But knowing, as long as we know what the water quality is when you're running at, full tilt, that helps us in the design process.
Okay.
So,
How is this pilot study gonna work now? I mean, is there funding for the pilot study?
the state, right now, the state requires that water suppliers pay for pilot studies and design on their own, and then they pay for construction of the facility. I was at Mass Waterworks had a session a couple of weeks ago where the folks from the Clean Water Trust, they provide all the money to SRF. So the folks from Clean Water Trust were saying that they were considering allowing the communities to retroactively get reimbursed for design and piloting money that they've spent. They haven't confirmed that yet, but that's what they're thinking about, because they know that there's a lot of need for treatment right now, and they know the communities don't have money to upfront the design and piloting, so they understand that that's a barrier, and I'm sure it's what you folks are considering too. So I don't have an answer on that yet, but that's what we heard from Clean Water Trust, that they were considering it. But that would be really important to know for you guys, I'm sure, that anything that you put forward beginning from now on this project is you're gonna get reimbursed through the SRF.
When you talk about reimbursed, like probably we were talking about loan, like a 0% loan, but like this is actually reimbursed like through some sort of grant or?
No, it could be part of a grant, or it could be reimbursed and rolled into the loan.
Okay.
They've got both options. The thing is, with PFAS, they are, the first round of PFAS money has come out, and a fair number of those first communities that, the communities that were really stuck, they had to shut sources down. Those folks jumped ahead. They have been funded now through the most recent cycle of SRF, and they got a fair amount of grant money.
Okay.
And so I'm expecting that to continue. And from what we hear from from SRF folks is the commitment that the federal government has made is actually going to grow over the next 5 years. So now's the time to be doing something about this, because you're going to position yourself for the best funding that we've seen for water infrastructure in a long time.
Cost-wise, rough idea, what would this pilot study cost us?
Pilot study, probably, I don't know, 150,000.
Okay.
When you do everything.
Sure.
When you do this effort, and then you do the piloting, which could be 60 or 70,000 for piloting, and then you do the maybe closer to 100 then, actually, if once you did all of this work and the piloting work.
Okay.
It's in that range.
You take an IOU?
For you, John?
From you, John, I don't know.
Yeah.
No date on it though.
Yeah.
Open-ended?
So,
All right.
so that's
Good.
if and so I'm interested. Obviously, I understand you guys are entertaining another proposal too. We want to work with you guys. It's I was going through some stuff. I think we've been working here since the 1970s. We want to continue doing that. This is a project that we are geared up for. We have folks that do this kind of thing, and I think we can do a terrific job for you. We want to continue to work with you.
Since 1970, huh?
In the 70s, I think.
So that,
Well, number 4.
Mid-70s.
that should give us a little consideration. All that cash we're
Little cost
giving you
break.
guys since 1970?
That's been about
Get the
way to turn it right around for us, John. I like it.
frequent flyer miles.
Frequent
So
flyer miles,
4
that's
of our
good.
well sites were
But you know what it is, Gary? It all comes down to the cash,
I understand.
you know?
Well, part of, one of the things that we're really focused on with this and, this type of project and this proposal is positioning you for the best money that you can get.
If we had a lot of money to throw around, but
You would have done it already.
it comes down to
Yeah.
it comes down to the money.
No, it's-
Unfortunately, that's how the whole world is run on money, so.
No, I understand. You're not pumping from that source because you don't have the money to,
Right.
To-
We don't have
to
money
treat it right
put
now.
it on,
and so.
online.
But if in my career, I always, when I started, I had heard about federal funding that, that paid for water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants in the 70s and all that stuff. I came after that by 10 or 15 years, but this time now appears to be the most favorable funding that we've seen in a very, very long time.
Well, that's good.
And it's for communities like yours. Communities like yours that are, you're doing a good job, you're providing good quality water, but you've got sites that you can't do anything with because you can't afford to spend multi-million dollars out there. You would if you could. But executing this, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, you'll have a plant out there that's giving you 500 GPM, and that just adds to the, you're in a good shape quantity-wise, but what it does is it gives you more redundancy, gives you more sources, and that's always a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now you're, instead of sucking hard from a couple of straws, you're sipping from a bunch of straws. Mm-hmm. And that, from an environmental standpoint, that's really beneficial too. And then those sources last a long time because you're not killing them. So. So again, we know your system. We've been here a long time. We want to continue work with you.
Good.
So.
Any more from the board or anybody on the PFAS?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
What's the next step?
We have to vote.
We gotta get funding on
vote,
Saturday.
Get funding on Saturday,
Yeah.
and then review proposals and see what we want to do.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's a dollar number that goes at the bottom of this thing at some point.
At some point.
Yeah.
If that's the scope that you're interested in, if you want us to do everything that's in here, then yeah, I can put some dollars to it for sure.
I think what we'll do is everybody can review this, and we'll see what happens Saturday, and in our next meeting we'll
Talk about it again.
Yep.
Make some-
Talking about it.
Yep.
keep talking about it.
Saturday is the district meeting?
Annual meeting, yeah.
Annual meeting, yeah.
Yeah, and one of our articles is funding for the pilot study for treatment of PFAS at the Hickory Hills well. So,
Okay. And can I ask how much are you seeking?
$2-3.
110.
What's
I was
that?
gonna say $2 or $3. Never let them know how much. Yeah, no.
Public information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100.
Yeah.
100?
100,
Okay.
yeah.
And I got it from your guy, Eric Groff.
From Eric, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I didn't know what to use for a number, so.
Right, so we talked about the,
Yeah.
Yeah, so he threw me on different ways of doing it, a quick study, and then a long-term one. And
Okay.
we put in the money for the long-term, so, because we didn't really know which way we were gonna go, so.
Right. Okay.
Okay, now we're on to Mass Ave, which I believe you're here for, is Mass Ave?
Mass Ave, I can give an update as well. That we're waiting for the survey to come in from.
Yeah, he said he saw him out there today.
They're out there today,
Perfect.
surveying, yep.
Anthony told me that they had this crew out there.
Yep.
And so we added Anthony at the last minute at Fran's request, and we were happy to do that. The other thing that Anthony brought along is he's got a relationship with the Conservation Commission agent who offered to do the wetland delineation on his own dime, which was really good. And so that reduced the cost there, which was great.
Now, is that Matt?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he moved on. He hasn't gone yet?
Well, no, he also does private.
Oh, okay.
He'll do the surveying for engineers to determine, that does wetland determination.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and so he does that as well as our agent
Yeah.
until he retires. And-
What are the odds of this project actually taking place? Because there's a warehouse going in near Keating's concrete side of the place on it. And they called me and they wanted me to come down and have a little meeting with them, talk about the pipe. Our spec is zinc coated pipe. He's like, we can't find zinc coated pipe anywhere. He says, the earliest we can get is November. So I'm like, oh, let me call my people. So I call around, and, yeah, there's no
It's
zinc
tight.
pipe.
It's really tight.
One said 36 weeks, so I'm not sure if that comes out to November or what, but.
Yeah.
So I let them use regular ductile pipe. So I think if
really?
we do something there, something happens, it's probably gonna have to be regular ductile. And then I called to buy some pipe, because if we did our own little water main job we were looking at doing, and he's like, well, I might be able to get you 500 feet, but that's about it.
Wow.
So
And what was the
So
cost?
we're hearing that.
$42 a foot for 8-inch pipe.
What did it used to, I mean, I bought pipe the other day and I about fell over. I mean, I did some drain pipe and it was $1,000 sitting in the back of my truck. I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff's getting incredible.
Yeah. I mean, stuff that used to be 50 cents a foot is $2.50 a foot.
All plumbing stuff is gone.
So, I mean, is
Yeah.
ductile iron pipe, I mean,
Well, when we did Maple Park, what was that, 4 years ago?
not, was it?
3 years ago?
No,
That
that's when
was,
I started 5 years ago, 4.5 years.
I thought it was like last year.
I think we
Feels like-
paid $16 or $17 a foot.
40 now.
42.
Was that a 4 inch or 6 inch or what?
That was 8-inch.
That was
8-inch. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna let them use? Regular ductile iron?
Yeah.
Plastic.
Well, maybe we spec both and we get prices for both.
Because they
And then you
already,
can make a decision.
they already got ductile iron sitting on the yard down there.
Yeah, I met them, it was last week, so they were trying to get the pipe.
Yeah, okay.
So once we get plans from them, Anthony told us we'd have plans in April. We want to get, some preliminary layout and then come drop the plans on the table here and we'll show you what we
Perfect.
want to do. I know you want to abandon the transite pipe in place, which
Like to.
is fine. So that just means we've got to put the pipe in a different spot than where the existing pipe is. The benefit is you can continue to use the existing pipe during construction, which is good. So you don't have to use a bypass.
Now, when you say a different spot, how far away from what's there? A couple of feet?
It's transite pipe, so we don't want to get too close. May have to go to the other side of the road or a few feet away for sure, John. I'm not exactly sure what's available out there.
That main's, the existing main's quite a ways off the
It's
road.
quite a ways off the road.
Yeah.
And in some spots, it's like 8-9 feet deep. So,
So if that's the case, we can stay on that side of the road.
I think,
and stay
yes,
away
because
from
you got a sewer main coming down that too, and that favors the other side
other
of the
side,
road.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so but there's the sewer, the water, there's a little bit of drain here and there, so we'll find a spot, for it. But yeah, the goal is to get that, once we get those plans from them, then we can get cranking on the design and get it out to bid. And I think we're gonna have to bid it in as flexible a way as we can, understanding the limitation on the materials.
So I agree, because we had talked about this earlier. I mean, if we get the whole thing, all the plans are done and we're ready for bid, and we're still good. I mean, and if the pipe isn't available, then we just postpone it, but everything's all set and ready to
Right.
go, so.
At least you get numbers, well, you get some numbers locked in if you bid it. If there's a delay on getting the materials, then that's something we're gonna have to work out with the contractor. But at least you got an understanding of what the cost is gonna be from the contractor.
Is the price of the pipe locked in?
I think if you bid it, it will be, right?
What's that?
If you bid it, it will be.
If we bid it, it
Yeah.
will be. There's some, I'll have to check on this, John, but there's some mass general laws that if the material price changes significantly over a period of time, and I don't know what that time is, I'll check on that, then the contractor may have a case to adjust the price.
Like a force majeure type of thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, it feels like things are stable now, more stable than, half a year ago or even last year. It was ridiculous, it was changing every day or every week. It feels like the prices are more stable now, high but stable. So I think the real issue here is really the schedule. And before we bid it, we'll talk to some water main contractors, folks that we know that do this kind of thing. We may plan on, I don't know how many months for this type of job, but I'll talk to them and see if we need to adjust the schedule a little bit, give them more time to accommodate the delay in getting the materials. I think for them, they've got, you've got good sources for materials. The contractors that do this type of work, I would hope that they can use their contacts to get the materials as well. I don't know if that's right at the manufacturer or what, but particularly when they're ordering a few thousand feet.
One would hope.
So you had mentioned, well, we talked about SRF funding for infrastructure. Is any of this project qualify for anything with that or not? With all the money coming down the pipe? Or is it all PFAS?
We didn't, no, it's for everything. We didn't include this project on last year's funding list, mostly because this is about $1 million project, and in the past I haven't really pushed my clients to seek SRF funding for that size project. It's relatively lower cost when you can think of the millions of dollars for treatment plants. And the reason for that is there's a cost to bidding and constructing a job with SRF money. There's those procurement requirements require a bunch of different things that the contractor has to do that make those projects percentage-wise more expensive. When you're talking about big dollars, it's really worth your while to accept that little pain for the big dollars you're going to get from the program. But for smaller projects like this, it's usually not it's not to your benefit to accept the pain. You're paying more for the project because of those requirements by SRF than it's worth to you.
So if this project gets held up because materials are not available, could we tie this project with some other water mains and go through the SRF?
Could.
And then it makes that.
Good.
Because there are a lot of fees. I know we would consider not using it for the Keating well. The minority business, the women business,
Yeah.
all things you had to add to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we could, and those, I guess the timing is right too, because those, the deadline for submitting SRF applications is gonna be mid-August or something.
Okay.
So, we could bid this, and you could decide you don't wanna go through with it or whatever, and, we could put an application in for next year, for SRF funding on a larger project if you wanted to.
Great. Plenty of water main I'd like to tear out, so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
all right.
Anybody else have any other questions for Gary? Gary, you have anything else for us?
I know. Although it's my first meeting in the new room here, I'm glad
Oh, yeah.
we can do this.
Some things that.
There we go. Now we got stuff for Gary.
The floor still got humps in it. I know, they came out and looked at it, and the water still comes in through the doors. They came out and looked at that. They did come out and fix some things with some of the insulation stuff was falling on the garage. They came up and they were gonna do something on the roof, but it was so windy that they wouldn't go up there, but.
I think I had talked to Terry about, they did you did those rails on
Yes.
on the
Yep.
roof?
Yes, that worked
And
out pretty good.
so now it was, then we wanted to bring back that heating contractor to straighten the pipes.
The vent pipe.
The vent pipes.
Yep.
Because we wanted to protect those first, but, so they haven't done that either?
No.
Did you talk to Steve?
We talked to Steve, he came out and looked at the floors and stuff, he said, let me see what I can do. And then we looked at where the water was coming in under the garage doors still. And he was gonna see if he could come up with another plan for that, but haven't heard of them.
Okay.
And the heating system
I'll
is still
reach out to
pretty
him.
weak. It's probably gone out 3 times.
That they come out,
Yeah.
talk about stuff, we'll
Is
get
that
back
right?
to you, and then
Yeah.
call again. Oh, okay, we'll come out, take a look.
So who were you dealing with on the heating system?
CTC, Adams
So they-
hired them, so Steve always
Yeah.
called Adams because they hired the other guy.
So that was Petoniak, is the guy's last name.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I spoke to him a couple times because we had issues when we lost power. We had no heat for a couple days this winter.
Okay.
That's
And
freezing.
it was so cold in here, we couldn't figure out what, nothing was working. So I called him and he talked to Terry, and Terry went out there and took something completely off.
Yeah.
And somehow got us, the thermostat, somehow got us heat, and then he came out one day and actually never charged us anything, came out and looked at the system and reset something down in the
Yeah, reset
basement.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we talked about long-term, like, if we have issues, like, this isn't a simple heating system.
I called local people.
Is this
and they
someone-
won't touch this thing.
Yeah.
This is not, they said, no, you just computerized.
Yeah.
This is not a normal heating system, we can't touch that.
And the
So,
prices, I think I had gotten a quote from them.
they were
from that.
insane.
It was
Go to the trash.
crazy.
From
CTC, like, they have one where if
We log in.
they can log into our system and they'll maintain it and this and that, and the price, I'm like, I'm not even bringing this up yet. Because it just was like, it was crazy to think about, like, but, you know.
So our whole system was intended to be, the propane baseboard is the primary,
Yeah.
and the heat pump is the secondary.
Secondary kicks on, yeah.
So when the power outage went out, we had neither.
Nothing.
Neither of them. So I'm like, why does something out there have to do with this?
Right, yeah, no, you would think that propane just does,
Yeah,
It didn't.
no,
it serves as the primary.
Yeah.
It didn't.
So did they figure out why it didn't come back with the power?
Something with the thermostat. I don't know if it shorted out, something. So that's what Terry went out and just disconnected it. And with the thermostat, it tells which source of heat to run. So when the temperatures were, was it below 60? It's
Oh,
the basement. If
primary.
it's above, then it would use that mostly as, not so cold of a day in the air conditioning.
Yeah, yeah.
And that messed up, so nothing knew what to do.
yeah,
So.
Wow, it sounds like a programming issue.
yeah. So he did come out and whatever he did
Oh,
downstairs.
he did do he said when it shorted out, it wasn't looking back at itself. It didn't look to see what was going on. it was a long time before it would actually say, hey, what's really good, what's the temperature, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So he changed it to look back every 5 seconds, so maybe it won't ever happen
Yeah,
again.
yeah, he may have programmed it
fixed the
and fixed it.
programming,
I mean, it's been fine now. After
Okay.
that, we didn't have any issues, but still, it was not a simple thing to look at and be like, oh, we have no heat. Try this, try that, and
I guess, do you want me to call CTC and try and
I think
get some
we're
more out of
okay.
them, or?
Yeah, thinking about it now, I think he might have
And
fixed it.
they never sent us a bill. I spoke to him
Okay.
on the phone multiple times. He spoke to Terry, and
Okay.
talked to Terry through doing stuff. He even made his way out here one day
Okay,
and didn't, he sent me a proposal for stuff, but it just hasn't been, talked about, and brought up yet. As far as if we want long-term costs for that, or if it's just, hey, we have an issue, can you come fix it?
right,
But no, they've been helpful so far, and it seems to be.
Ongoing maintenance or something like that?
Yeah, if, like, they wanted kind of a contract type thing, like, oh,
I
if
see.
you do this, I don't know the specifics, I'd have to grab it, but
Yeah.
it sounded more like a contract. If you hire us, pay this amount,
Be
we'll
client,
maintain your
right.
system
I
for the
see.
year. And if
I
you
see.
have an issue, we can log in, and we
Yeah.
can do this from here, and so.
So the next thing is, during the summer, you're gonna be using it for AC.
Yeah,
Has that been an issue?
Oh, that's
we had it all last,
ACs?
yeah,
Okay,
no,
so it's just a heating issue this past year?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And are you confident that that they've resolved it?
I actually, now we
think
talk about it, I think he did fix it.
I think
Okay.
so, because we haven't had it, and it seemed to be one of those freak things where I think we had lost power, maybe we weren't
That's the
here.
phase of the-
Yeah, we weren't here if it was the middle of the night, so we
okay.
weren't aware of it, and just happened to come in the next day and was like, why is it cold? And didn't really know why.
So the power was the power still out to the facility?
No, it was back on, so that's why we didn't
Okay,
really
okay.
know
Yeah.
that things had shut off and kicked on and
I
done their
see.
thing with the generator, and that had happened. So
Yeah.
it took a little bit of figuring that out, but they were helpful, and I think,
Okay,
I hate to jinx, but I think we're okay.
Yeah, let's leave it as the heating system's okay.
We're okay.
Good,
Yeah.
good. That's some
Yep.
idea of that. So, but maybe I can reach out to Steve from Stutman and find out, what's he gonna do? Because he promised us, he wanted us to wait
Yeah,
on
wait.
those
Yeah.
Get the heat
tiles.
going, yep.
You wanna go through a season, and if those aren't right, he needs to.
Yeah,
needs
I
to
mean, there's
replace
some pretty good humps, and there's some squeaky soft spots
them.
with,
They
Yeah.
can replace those, so pull them up.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think I think it's the subfloor. I'm not sure. It could be
But they can-
those, 'cause
yeah,
you can
man.
step on them.
I can grind that.
grind or
Oh, it's a
the other
wood.
way fill if they need to.
Had that glue on over the plywood, and then they put
Maybe it's not screwed down tight.
well, these are just glued, but some of them you actually see, you could, if you look at it, you could step on it and squish it down, so it could just need to be re-glued,
Yeah.
reset, so.
Right, but they gotta pull up those and a couple around it.
Around.
Yeah.
And then do it all again right,
Right.
make it look seamless, like they didn't do anything. Okay, I can give Steve a call on that.
Yeah, let's just see if we can do something.
Yeah, no, they should.
He's been really good.
Yeah, yeah. Is it so it's just the tiles and
The doors.
under the overhead?
Yeah,
doors?
we had a garage door that was dead for months. They fixed that.
The motor?
Yeah, the circuit board.
Okay,
Every time I tried to use it, popped the fuse.
okay.
So they came out and fixed the circuit board. And I think that was outside of the warranty,
Okay,
but it didn't seem like it, but they said it was, but they fixed it anyway, so.
good.
Didn't we have an issue with the fan too in the garage?
Oh, yeah, we shut those off.
Yeah,
The fans, the exhaust fans,
yeah.
they were on, and there was no carbon monoxide was a sensor, the
Yeah.
CO2 and the diesel, whatever.
They were just shut.
And it was the middle
The
of the
fans
winter.
are on, it's freezing cold on, the fans
Yeah.
are all on, like,
Yeah.
They're sucking all the heat
Yeah.
what's
out.
this?
Yeah,
Why are they on? And
Yep.
Just
we
cut the heat
couldn't shut it off. So we popped the breaker to kill the fan, then put plastic over the vents and seal it. Oh, we closed it. Manually closed it.
Yeah,
And
okay.
killed it. So
Okay.
yeah, we don't need it.
You don't run vehicles in there? Not
We
full
opened the
on?
door.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Maybe it's a code thing that they had to.
Probably a
had to
code
do it.
thing. So many code things.
Yeah.
All the code people just waste our money.
It costs, makes everything cost 3 times as much.
Yeah.
So you had to pull a breaker on it, there's not an auxiliary switch to shut it down?
Yes, there is. Isn't
Oh,
there? To the left
didn't
of
find
the,
it. Yeah, there's
No,
a
I thought there
manual-
was one right there
Yeah,
to
there's
the-
a manual disconnect.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd still have them look at it, make sure that it's at least operational, and then shut it down.
But you just have to pop the thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you gotta climb back up there and shut it off manually, so.
Just open the door.
That doesn't work.
There you go.
And if the one door don't work, you open up two.
Yeah.
Good solution.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll give Steve a call tomorrow
All right.
and I'll reach back out to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. This is pretty good, probably just forgot about it, so.
Yeah, well, we'll remind them. Right, folks?
All right,
Yeah.
all right, nice meeting you.
Thank you, Gary.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you,
too.
Gary.
Good seeing you, Gary.
Bye now.
Okay, just gotta backtrack a little bit, and John, you wanna make a motion to accept the minutes of the March 9th?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept the minutes of March 9th.
All right, second it.
I can't, because I wasn't here.
Matt wasn't here for those, so all those in favor? Aye, aye. And what else we got? Mass Ave. We can open the big documents.
Ah,
We were hoping to have two.
yeah.
It's already ripped, somebody check it out.
I thought that was enclosed on the inside too, when I got it in the mail. And I opened it, and I'm like, nope, it's not enclosed, so I left it, and,
Yeah, usually they're already resealed.
yeah.
Looks like there's multiple copies here. You want a copy?
I'll breeze through it.
John doesn't like handing me anything. He just takes them for himself.
Yeah.
I'm good, just,
Now, this is for the, T-Mobile. okay.
T-Mobile is the only one that submitted back for
Are they
the
coming in?
RFP for
No,
the
no.
lease on Pope Road water tank.
All this for a RFP. Boy,
Wow.
no wonder there's
We
no...
gotta read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is this, this is something you're gonna forward to legal anyway, or no?
legal set the whole thing up, so
Yeah.
we'll probably send it to legal just to have them review it. But legal, they should have followed what legal started with.
So any idea where they put the big stuff, like the money?
That's not even our water tank.
Section D, price,
Yeah.
rent, proposal form.
Yep.
Yes.
So it looks like rent lease
Similar.
proposal form,
Similar.
Oh, that's not our water tank.
Medford, yeah.
annual
Oh,
rent.
just showed
Did they do annual rent in the past, or how'd they do it?
It was a monthly fee, and they did a escalator.
Yep, what was their escalator
It
typically?
was a minimum of 3%.
So they got 45,000 for the first year lease payment with a 3% escalator. And what is,
E,
how long does it run?
That's where the money is?
that's where the money is.
I think
Right after D.
usually it's 5-year terms, renewable for 3 more 5-year terms.
Certificate of non-collusion.
Now, did the other guys leave the shelter? Didn't we say that they were leaving the
They
shelter?
left the shelter.
They
This
left.
this is the T-Mobile, so yeah, it's
Yep.
going correct. That one is still there.
Yeah.
All the
They-
equipment's
in
out of
yours, does
it.
it say where the,
I couldn't get in. But, I asked
What the-
You don't have this on it,
Michelle,
on
see if I
yours?
can charge you stuff.
how long it
That's
lasts?
nice.
Oh,
Well, yeah, I know. These are like like
Oh, effective date?
self-contained.
Yeah.
You live in that for a house.
Okay.
We need one of those for our PFAS plant.
Yeah.
Mini one.
Now, do we still have available space on the tower?
Yes, we have one more spot.
So how would we'd have to, if somebody had an interest, we'd have to do another RFP, or?
Correct.
And this is for one location on the tank, or does this,
This is where they're already located there, so it's just gonna continue to stay there.
okay.
Yeah, we signed an agreement to give them temporary permission to stay there until we did this.
The term of each lease will be for an initial 5 years with 3 5-year extension periods for a total of 20 years. So it's $45,000 for the first year, 3% escalator if they renew this up to 20 years. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yep.
So when they first started, got on the tank, I wanna say they were paying $2,000 a month. And now what is it?
I just did it, 3,700 was what would come out,
So
45,000.
it'll be the same thing, probably in, probably a little more, probably $2,000 more a month in 20 years.
And that's actually higher, because what are we,
So-
getting right around 34?
We have to sign this, or once the legal reviews it, then we can sign
I'd
it?
like legal, you accepted them, and
Yeah.
they're part of the minutes that you opened them and read them out loud, and we'll send it to legal counsel, and so probably the next commissioner's meeting, we'll authorize it.
Yeah, do we authorize you to sign it, or do we have to sign it?
Usually, it actually probably says a name on it, but typically it's a commissioner.
Submitted to, signature. Okey-doke. Well, I'll just figure that out. That's done.
Get the
Review
warrants.
motions for the annual meeting.
I think I took the motions down there for you guys.
Well, that ain't me.
So, you should read them real quick,
Like that one.
pick the ones you want to do.
Didn't I give you this? Right here.
Oh, okay.
You can do them all.
Hey,
Yes.
sorry, the tough one. Some of them are this long.
I'd be like,
Woody's got that one.
Yeah, but these are all easy.
So 1, 2, and 3, are those Mr. Bingham?
Oh, do you want a copy?
Don't wake them up.
Oh, you know what, I have an extra.
Put your name on.
Yes, I'll have an
I
extra.
understand.
I'm gonna put them on them, so I have them ready for,
Okay.
so I'll have them ready for,
Do we start with 3, or does he do 3?
We start with 3, I
We
think.
start with 3.
yeah. Yeah, I have, sorry.
I'm not gonna do
I
it,
sh-
I can't
I should
ask
have,
for stuff, but you guys are gonna have to say something.
you guys
Yeah.
gonna have to give me the tutorial on this one, I'll tell you.
It's pretty, so,
so the first article is the moderator and that, which we usually pass
Right.
until the end of the meeting, once the votes are tallied.
Yes, because it's close to the.
yes, we passed on, yeah.
Yes, so then Article 2, yeah, one of you guys has to do,
Yeah.
starting with Article 2.
Jeff, as a moderator, is gonna bring each article up. We have to make a motion on the article. Somebody at the meeting needs to second the motion, and if there's any clarification, we clarify the article to the public, and then we vote on the article. And then,
Or it goes out to public.
or the moderator calls for the vote on the article. We vote on the article, and he pretty much says whether the article passes or not. It's just like town meeting.
Okay.
Where everybody raises their hand, and if you want, you can call for, a hand count, and all 5 people in the room can raise their hands.
Good thing we got Jeff.
So what we do sometimes is we go through these, and we can either do it then, or we just choose, because we have to read the articles. The commissioners read the articles, and we just
Yeah.
kind of go through like,
Yeah.
so,
All right, there's 9 of them. No, there's
1, 2, 3,
6.
4, 5, 6, 7.
8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Well, there's
7,
9.
8.
Jeff is
But
gonna,
1 and 2 don't mean anything.
Right.
So, well, 2, you still have to say something.
yeah.
You still
You still have to
say
read that. I
Two.
move that the district votes.
I'll take
yeah.
2.
Well, it says 2, 3,
Go ahead.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I don't care what 3 I get.
I don't care what you get either, if you're gonna remember, it's Saturday, right?
No, you put your initial next to the ones you're supposed to read, and then you won't forget. That's what I do. Us old guys gotta remember what we're doing.
We just,
The only tough one's 9, because you gotta actually say the manganese and pert and
oh, right,
polyfluoroalkyl.
I'll do the hardest ones.
I would give that one to Matt.
Number 9?
I'll do 9.
Okay. That's your name, Matt?
That's Woody. No one even knows, it's a secret name.
And then,
I tell you what, why don't I do 3, 5, and 7,
John.
if you want, you know?
Wow.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's good.
3,
I'll do,
5,
might as well take 4
and 7.
and
You know all about Article 7, so you can explain it?
We don't have to explain
Which was
that.
Article 7?
That's the skater.
Oh, skater.
Yeah.
And
You can do the other thing, Mark?
you want another one, or I can do the other two? It doesn't matter.
I'll take one up.
If you gotta say poly, whatever, PFAS, and practice that in the mirror, I'll do 4, 6, and 8. That way you
Who's
can,
doing
you
two?
can practice your.
All right,
And you can do number 2 then.
I got 2.
He's got
Okay.
2, and he's got to say per and polyfluoroalkyl.
It's called PFAS.
All right, so what do you got?
Google
One.
it.
John has, sorry, Woody has 2, John has 3, Birch has 4, John has 5, Birch has 6, John has 7, Birch has 8, Woody you have 9.
Okay, so you guys gotta remember, you always do it, right? You guys always grab the book and read the articles.
You have
You
to,
cannot read the articles, you have to read the motions.
the motion. So, when he
So I will
says,
print
when he
these and I will
says,
give you guys your highlighted ones for what you're reading.
right, he basically says the article before us, and then you move to up. It's not, I move the article.
I'll be in on Friday to rehearse with you guys.
Don't worry,
You can almost
it's not bad. It's not bad.
No, it's,
I'm not worried about it, but
So you're gonna have motion
I need
sheet
to
for
write
us?
it down. Like, this
This,
is like...
This is
yes.
the motion
So
sheet.
this is the motion sheet. This is from KP. These are the motions that KP gave me. So
There you go.
I will make,
Hold on to that.
I will make copies. That's why I put everybody's name. I will make copies and I'll have them on the table to figure
Okay.
out who's got what.
All right,
so you don't read this.
we don't need to vote on them, we've already voted on the articles.
You're gonna read
But
what
they're
I gave.
identical.
Sure. Yeah,
The one that I just gave you, that's what you would be reading from.
Yeah.
Not that one where we actually, the articles with the motions.
You got
Right,
Oh,
so
yeah.
take this home and make sure you bring it
The
back.
pre and poly.
probably, yeah. Hope so.
Lawyer's coming, yes.
Yes,
Who's coming?
the lawyer.
Attorney.
Okay, now we're looking, are we at old business or are we at superintendent's?
This is one you guys have already reviewed, and they updated the plan for Powell, Steve Powell.
Yep,
And they're going through approval through the town, through the planning board. And he just wants us to approve,
For a water main,
yes.
he's gotta get an approval for the planning board?
The planning board wants to know that we approve that he can get water, so they didn't wanna.
okay, have you already
Authorize it.
seen and reviewed the plans?
Yes, they brought one in this morning,
Yep,
and they had 16-inch main, I had them drop to 12-inch main, so it's gonna be 12-inch main from Reservoir Road to Fort Pond with full T, and then he's dropping 8-inch to what. he
whatever
wants.
goes to the bridge. So, if we ever plan to expand and send water out of town, is a 12-inch main sufficient?
Yeah, the original plan, if we ever did like that, someone's gonna.
So this is going down to the land use place?
He's proposing a new, where are we?
Didn't they change, aren't they redoing that intersection of Reservoir and, I thought they were redoing that intersection.
I'm not sure, I mean, they cut all the trees and stuff.
So, I don't know, I was actually working by there today a bunch. They put all the I thought they were gonna widen the road. I don't think they're gonna.
No, they're gonna take that ledge corner out of there.
I don't think so. You
No?
see, they just set all the new poles, and they're only like 4 feet behind the old ones. And I think
Yeah.
they cut all this. I'm assuming that's for power to the new building, but like,
Yeah.
I don't think they're cutting that corner.
They're gonna put some kind of a warehouse down around the corner?
Down next to Lafarge.
Yeah, put a,
Is this
put
what
an
we're talking about,
ambulance fire truck
that-
right there.
The new building down here.
No.
No, this is separate. This is
This
Powell's
is-
just running water to
Yeah,
theirs.
Powell wants to run water to their place, so this
From where?
is
We have it at
Reservoir
Reservoir
Road.
and.
Yeah.
So we already have a main, there's one
When you
pipe
say
sticking
their
out.
place, where they have a lot of places.
The garage.
They're gonna run it all the way
Where
almost to the
Rip It
bridge.
Up Rentals was, and the garage where they store their trucks.
Understood.
They can't go past the railroad tracks
Yeah,
over there.
yeah.
Basically to their.
Limits the water on the other side of the bridge.
Okay.
So pretty much as far as they can go is. So this Reservoir Road.
Yeah.
So they're gonna run in, this is the Keating's maintenance building.
Yep.
So they're gonna run through all the way up to there, Fort Pond Road,
Yep.
doing the T. They do have hydrants on here.
Yep.
Hydrant specs is usually within 1,000 feet. Cannot go past 1,000 feet.
So every 1,000 feet you need a hydrant, is what you're saying?
Yes, at the most. Yes, usually they're a little closer, depending on where things are. Always at a street intersection, there's always a hydrant.
Okay.
And then, so then you look at 1,000 feet, you look at the buildings around, then so you might make it a little closer, so you can get the buildings. I always look at it like the fire truck.
Sure.
Fire trucks heading down there, they want the hydrant before
whatever you're getting to, yeah.
So that's how I always look at it. So these, the hydrants are shown on here, but then those are not set. We'll more pinpoint where they're gonna go at the fire
Site
department approval.
location, yeah, look at the,
It's gonna be a busy place down there this summer. Everything
Yeah.
going on down there.
It is. There's no water here now?
no,
Because up at
Pioneer Park.
Pioneer Park?
That's it.
Lemon's the one.
Lemon's the
Pioneer
one.
Park, where it actually goes through my father's, it goes up Brown Ave, it goes right all the way down through that way. That's right, it doesn't go any further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we have to vote for approval of this, or you authorize you to approve the plan and?
No, you can
'Cause I
approve.
thought we already voted to approve him doing the installation. or
Right,
get-
but
or
it wasn't
move
like an
forward.
official, you guys supported it, and we left it as, because his original name was much larger, so we told him to downsize it, and then we never really heard about it for a year, so now he's trying to go for his permits. So if you guys want to approve it as laid out with the exception of hydrant locations and valve locations.
To be
we'll
finalized by you.
Finalized at
Yeah.
a future date.
Is he putting any other buildings in down there?
I never discussed what he was putting in for his building.
But are there any buildings going in there? How about that guy that just took over that spot?
He was trying to get people to jump in and
He's
help
still
pay
trying to
for it,
get,
so.
he's doing the line, he's trying to get the neighbors to, I
Yeah.
believe, help with it.
Is Keating's garage is not on water?
No,
No, Steve gave him a stub, even though I don't think they're pitching in for it, but they really should be. But,
Yeah.
and future topic will be Calico Road in Lancaster,
Which is,
right there. Yep.
yeah.
yeah, they have a lot of water problems.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have water.
Dry
Yeah, they
wells
do.
all the
Yeah,
time.
wells
Yeah.
are bad.
Yep,
Well, hey,
yep.
so we need a motion to approve anything, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
make a motion to approve the plans as submitted.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the plans drawn by who, or
Well, McCarty drew 'em, but
McCarty, for Powell's water main.
I second that motion.
Oh,
Just add to it that hydrant locations will be per the superintendent and fire department's approval. And I'm good with that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
so I'm curious, would he put a stub for,
He put a stub for Fort Pond Road.
okay.
I told him a T.
Yeah, put a T
at
in
Gates.
valve, yeah.
Gates,
okay.
yeah.
I said, because we don't want to cut the main. and-
Sure, because.
And he understood.
Yeah.
Now, what would go down there if the water main ever went in there? Another
Down Fort
12?
Pond,
Yeah.
I'd continue 12. Because Lancaster did talk to us, it was a few months ago, and we lost out on the other side of the road. That's going to Leominster Water. But Lancaster asked if we would consider feeding to Route 2. And future discussion, so I guess.
Okay.
I still like the idea. I mean, not a whole lot of, we won't really make a whole lot of money on it. I think it was 140 houses. But at Route 2, then we can do an interconnection with Shirley Water. Shirley Water's hooked to other towns, so I mean, to me, it'd be a good thing. I mean, the original plan was if we crossed Route 2, then we'd be hooking up with Lancaster, which was connected to Leominster Water. So we would have a whole group of water departments
Yeah.
interconnected that if someone had a problem, we could feed
Sure.
each other. I mean, Lunenburg could not feed Leominster, but if Lunenburg and Shirley were connected,
share, yeah.
and Devon's is connected to Shirley and Air or whatever,
Right.
then who knows,
Yeah.
It's gonna be an uphill battle to hook into Cleaver Road. I mean, it's a lot, it's a big project with not a lot of properties involved.
Right, no, I could see
So
that.
that's
42, I
gonna,
think.
yeah, so,
Yeah, it was around
It's a large area, that's a,
and we're not selling a ton of water when that happens.
no. Yeah.
So
But if it's all put in for free,
if it's all
you
put
got
in for
50
free,
houses going
I'm
in.
all about I'm all about helping the people that don't have the water. But boy, it's a big nut because now, you know, we're not gonna sell a ton of water
right.
No.
down that way.
What's,
A lot of green grass though.
There's a lot of green grass. Well, maybe there'll be some potential for sprinkler systems. Who
what's
knows?
going on up before the Boy Scout camp on the right, before the bridge?
Nothing. I believe they're just clearing it now. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any plans in place for that.
Okay.
But I think they're clearing it, and I believe the talk was residential, but I don't know.
I thought that was.
Can't imagine residential.
No, I thought it was zoned industrial there.
Keating owned
I don't
that
know.
property at one time, I think.
Keating owned everything at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting nervous. Seems like a lot of chunks are going away.
All right.
Dirt
So
bikes.
I got a tractor.
Frank's like, come on up.
we jumped to that, but we have old business still. But we went over Hickory Hills treatment today. We went over Mass Ave water main replacement today. We have engineering and consultants, and we have painting Pope Road water tank. So
Yeah, nothing new in the tank. The engineer consultants, we just have one more firm that I'd like you guys to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're painting a tank right now in Grafton, so they're kind of on top of it. And I did talk to Gary about painting tanks, and I saw it on one of those water magazines, and it was, instead of sandblasting, it was water blasting.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to encase the whole tank in the wrap, you know, the
Yeah.
protective
Yeah.
wrap. So it was a water blast, and I guess they did like rows, and they would blast that row, and then once it dried, prime it.
Is that what they call, that's soda blasting?
No.
No, that's a,
Different?
That's a bead.
That's,
Yeah,
I think
it's a
that's more
bead,
like a dustless blasting. Honestly.
Yeah, so
It's got to
it's-
use some sort of media. It's not just pressure washing.
I mean, you shoot some 100.
Oh, some of them
500
water
pounds of
jets
pressure.
will
Yeah.
go right through steel plate.
Well, I don't want to go through the tank. I just want to take
No,
the
but they
paint.
turn the pressure down.
Were we talking more on engineering and consultants, or gonna just keep going on that and see how things?
Yeah, one more. I'd like to bring them in, have them present their little stuff to you.
Yep.
And
Is this for the PFAS thing?
PFAS and the water main projects,
Okay.
you know.
Which I think you were talking, next meeting maybe, right?
Yeah, next week if it's
April
okay. I'll
13th.
have them come in and same thing, we'll give them
Sure.
an hour or whatever. So I mean, the way the PFAS thing went, the first guy was more to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't trying to sell you.
Yeah.
Here came in more of a, proposal, using
Yeah.
them. But the other guy that's his life is the water quality and
I like their
Biologist.
idea of like a in-service test.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, obviously, when you do that, it's going out into the mains. It's something that they'd have to make sure it's, you have to test it frequently to make sure that what's going out there,
Yeah.
that they're actually removing the iron and manganese and removing the PFAS. And I like the idea of the real world test.
I like
I'm
that
with
too.
you. Me too.
In a long term, and then like you say, the longer that test is, the better the facility that can be built with less
Right, right.
maintenance and less everything. And like you say, you're getting a side benefit to actually be able to use this water over the next 2 years.
And then- right.
And even more importantly, slowly run that well.
Yeah.
Because like anything, like we talked about the wells over there, they sit stagnant for a while, and that's when you start getting more and more problems. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the science of the trailer seemed pretty intriguing, but science and engineering
The one question,
don't always
yeah, the
give
one,
you real life.
excuse me, the one question that I would have for the first guy that was here is, would they ever exchange, excuse me, the media that's in those tanks? Remember this guy was saying, like, we're gonna try this resin or whatever they were calling it, or this, like, I'm assuming at some point there's,
There might be a different type of resin.
exactly, that is
Right.
more in tune to, and like, do you run it with this resin and this, like, how do you, those would be questions now that I know more about it, I might be a little intrigued.
And his cost on the test, who knows? I mean, he said that's an 8-month test.
8
No.
months, no.
Did he say 8 months?
3 or 4 weeks. I
Wait,
thought.
the
No,
second
Gary,
guy?
no, Gary's
Gary's was
Quick.
short term.
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, the other
But
was years.
hooking the system up and running it consistently.
That was years.
I
3
thought he was
years.
shooting for 2 to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Really?
The tanks and stuff that he had?
Just, and make sure it works and you're gonna
Keep
learn
running it.
a lot while
I
it
like
works.
that.
Right. So, I mean, but like I say, if we could put it in a storage container out there, I think that'd be a win-win.
Yeah.
I think they would.
Well, a temporary system, yeah,
Temporary
especially
system.
if we be able to.
And it sounds like from him, like, we could put a lot of used stuff in. Like, we don't need big fancy everything. This is just a test system. So if we could do it cheaply, self-help a little.
Well, we have to see, because the pilot study gives us X amount of
Sure.
funding.
Right.
So what does it cost to set all that up?
Yep.
Because there's still gotta be some analytical data that they're gonna have to analyze all the water and how it works.
So I guess that is my one question about this pilot study. Is that firm's job to test and submit the data? How does that work? Who takes these?
It sounded
I-
like Gary,
When I talked to the guy, I think the short-term test, he would do it.
Yep.
The long-term, we would do it.
Okay, so does that mean like once a week you go out there and take readings off this and?
On the pilot study that they present with that little trailer that comes out,
Yeah.
it was, long-term test was like once a month.
Yeah,
And the short-term, he said the same amount of samples. If you do the short-term, you're doing quick samples.
correct.
And the long-term, you're doing long-term, they're more spread out. So he
Right.
says, it's the same amount of samples, it's 5 to 6 is typical, how many times you would sample.
5 to 6
Times.
a week, a year?
Oh, no, for the whole-
For the whole project.
test.
So, from what I understand, testing alone for PFAS is not an exact science.
Not really, because the first guy talked about the baseline
Right.
being not, there's no zero baseline of
Correct.
PFAS. There's a certain amount of PFAS in
everything,
regardless.
right.
So, yeah.
well, I know when Terry's gone, Terry's the one who usually has done it all, and we started doing PFAS testing before it was even required.
Yeah.
Just to be proactive.
Yeah.
And I remember the instructions were detailed, don't wear deodorant, don't,
Right.
all.
No Gore-Tex or
Yeah.
raincoats.
Yeah.
But I believe he always took 2 samples though, right? Like he did 1 bottle with nothing in it, and you had another bottle so that they had something to go by
Okay,
as a
yeah.
control.
Okay.
Control, exactly. So they did a control one, so they gave you stuff, you did it on site. So they know there's nothing in that. So
Understood.
they use that, so if they did have something, then they could say there's something there that got into both.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it kind of proves that.
Well, yeah, let's listen to this other proposal. I mean, this is all very interesting, but it does kind of boil down to, is this money well spent or not? And, I mean, that's,
I agree.
I mean, either way, long term, you've got to look, even if this PFAS thing is getting better and lower, like he was saying, like
Right.
Blake was saying, the iron and manganese, that's
Well, I
not,
I
I mean,
guess
we're always gonna have to.
yeah,
That's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, so we're
right.
always gonna have to,
And I
even
kinda
if
like
this is
how-
a short-term
Yeah.
thing, we're
That's-
still, if we wanna continue running Hickory Hills and, okay, PFAS is dropping, it's getting better, it's
Right.
better. Okay, maybe we can drop that second part, but we're always gonna need some type of.
right.
I was glad to hear him say that. I've never heard anybody say that it's on the decline.
Yeah.
And then when you
Yeah.
think about it, because everybody's getting more control of it.
Right.
Yep.
Because your Teflon, it's on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Imagine how much you eat. So
Yep.
yeah, now that the people are getting in control of it,
Yep.
Yeah,
so maybe it is a good thing. Maybe 2 or 3 years we would be good. We don't know.
yeah,
But we still have the other problems that were, at least with this, we would be able to, in that pilot study, I'm assuming, at the same time of running this for 2 years, we could figure out the best way to remediate the other stuff that we
Yeah,
have in
other
there
stuff,
too.
Yeah.
right.
The magnesium and
Yeah.
stuff.
yep.
Good. Do we have anything else?
Wow, the superintendents, is that what you're at?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So, Mass Ave Bridge called today. We have a meeting the 29th with them. They want to get on the water main, the first thing they do down there. So, it's a whole new guy, different foreman, so we'll go through the whole job. So it's still the intent of crossing the bridge.
What bridge are we talking about?
Mass
Right in
Ave
there.
and Mackey's.
So that we cutting the valve, there's two
Virgilio
valves, no
did that
water.
job over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
No water crossing the bridge right now.
Oh, okay.
It's off, so it's looping around.
Okay.
So, so we need to tie on the main here, it's gonna elbow up and go along the side of the bridge and be insulated.
Okay.
Then drop back down, and then we added our water main to their contract, so they're gonna replace all the way to Tilton.
Okay.
That's our bad pipe.
If we got the pipe for that?
They're doing all the pipe,
Oh,
they're doing everything.
okay, because I thought we had to get the pipe, they were gonna put it in.
Nope, we had to pay for the pipe, that was it.
Oh, that's the
Did
most
we?
important
Their
part.
installation, we haven't paid yet.
We haven't paid anything yet.
Haven't put it in
So
yet.
we're gonna pay for that through that, with
The maintenance.
Maintenance fund, we put that 50,000
Yes.
every year, so we're
Yep.
gonna pay for that.
Might not be in the month.
Yeah, so the state's gonna pay for the water main, whatever's there to get over the bridge
Yeah.
to a valve.
Understood.
From that valve, it's us.
Okay.
So I keep telling them, push the valves off. The
Yeah.
further you push that valve, the better it is, so.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's gonna be happening soon. We went through the power water main. And the other thing was the warehouse, I already mentioned it, that our spec is zinc coated, they can't get it, so I told them it was okay to just use ductile line. It's on private property, if it ever fails and leaks or whatever, if we fix it, we bill them, or they fix it themselves, pay for it, so it really doesn't affect us.
Did anybody say anything about repaving the bridge down there?
I would imagine they will once they're done doing
Okay.
the water main. I don't know what they haven't.
Sidewalk, I think, on the right-hand side going towards Fitchburg. But I think they left that out because they're working on the water main or something, I don't know. Because it's gonna be on the other side of
Yeah.
the guardrail, so I
But
don't
they're
know.
still got a lot of work in the road, and then they gotta veer it off to run the
Yeah,
bridge.
okay.
Yeah, and there was only 3 or 4 house services. Mackey's was a temporary, so they were gonna run it through the culvert and up. Usually we ran it from the side street and across from Chaplin's where the flea market is. Usually when we had a problem before, we ran a garden hose from that house to Mackey's. Because Mackey's just has a bathroom. So.
They're gonna run it through the culvert.
Yeah, they thought that was the shortest way to get to Mackey's, so I'm like, yeah, whatever you wanna do.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when you say run it through the culvert, you mean hang it in the culvert or run it in the dirt? Under the water.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna do a lot of hand shoveling, you know that?
Well, it's just only gonna be there probably for
Yeah.
2 weeks, so.
No.
Oh, they're gonna run a temporary.
Yeah, temporary, until when they do the water main.
You got John thinking they're running a main line down through the.
Oh, water,
What do you think,
replacing
some
the
kid
water
there with the
service.
hilt?
What did I say? I didn't say temporary?
No,
Maybe
you
not, I didn't.
I assumed that, like,
Hey,
You're right.
You don't assume anything.
you're right, that would not be
Yeah, they're running temporary through the culvert pipe.
I think I
Okay,
might
now
quit.
I gotcha.
All right, does that wrap us up?
I hope so.
We got public comment?
Public comment?
Hope everybody shows up Saturday.
I think we'll all be there.
One other thing, I got, the planning board's gonna put our new zone 2 map.
Yeah.
Because of the well number 2 down there, the zone 2 kinda changed a little bit. And the bylaw restrictions you can do in zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. They updated all that too, so they have a hearing for that article on April 11th at 6 PM. And they want someone from here to go, so I said I'd go to that. And then they want someone at the town meeting in case there's any kind of questions, and that one would be tough for me to get to. So, I don't think it's gonna be any questions on it, but. So we got
when's
Jeff, so.
He is an elected official.
I got guard. I don't know what it is.
When is the meeting that you're going to for that?
That's, the 11th is 6 o'clock at night playing.
Monday the 6th, yeah.
I'd go to that if you.
At the town hall. That one's, I can go to that one, so.
Well, I was just thinking whoever's gonna go to town meeting should probably go to that one, if they're gonna learn
Well,
anything.
go to that one, well, then you can see everything, and I can give you all the stuff. I mean, I got the map in my office.
When
It's
is
just,
it,
we just did a
when's
little
town
tiny little
meeting?
piece out.
It's usually in May, isn't it?
May 7th. I wrote it down somewhere.
I have it on my calendar if you need me to check.
I actually probably won't be here. Like,
I might be around, so we'll see, just get a hold of me before he goes to the planning board meeting, so.
that's a long time away.
You think it's April 11th when you wanna?
Well, if I was gonna go to town meeting, I'd like to go to the April
Yeah.
11th one, so I know what I'm talking about. hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything, you're just saying they've changed some of the restrictions in Zone 2, and we've changed the Zone 2 a little bit?
That was the main thing. We changed a little bit because with the new well down at Lancaster Ave, it tweaked the Zone 2 a little bit.
And do you think it affected any property owners nearby?
It was a little bit on Kilburn Street, so I don't think it affected anybody.
Okay.
But the wording of that, there was some stuff in the bylaw that DEP didn't like. So it was kind of tough, so they would, Adam from Planning Board was trying to talk to DEP to help. And the person he was talking to, DEP, went to another job. So he
Yeah.
was kind of stuck in limbo. So I hooked him up with Dave Howard, the guy who does Geo Insight, who does Zone 2 stuff. He did the maps. And I told Adam, I said, talk to him. You guys work it out. And that's what they did, so.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn. Good night.
So moved.